Chapter 996. Tan Xiu's hearing was particularly keen, so he could naturally hear the conversation between Zhang Xinya and Zhang Xinya. However, he really didn't know how to deal with the twin sisters who looked almost identical. Especially Zhang Xinyue. After all, that matter had already happened. It was hard for him to ignore it even if he had a big heart. Let's go. Not knowing how to solve it, Tan Xiu didn't feel like entangling himself in this issue. He believed that there would always be a way out when the time came. Zhang Xinya had informed Zhang Xinyue in advance to pick them up, so he believed that she had her own plans. The nanny car. The space was very large. Even though there were only a few seats, it could accommodate Tan Xiu, Zhang Xinya, and Tang 28's 5 children. Zhang Xinyue personally drove the car and quickly took everyone to the Blue Star Villa complex. Would you like to go inside and have a seat? After Tan Xiu and Tang 28 got off the car, Tan Xiu looked at Zhang Xinya and Zhang Xinyue and asked. We won't go inside. Take them back to rest early and we'll come again later. Zhang Xinya shook her head and smiled. All right. Tan Xiu complied and watched them get on the car and leave. Then, he turned to look at the villa's courtyard gate. After returning to his long-awaited home, Tan Xiu could finally relax completely. He had been very busy with all kinds of things during this period, and his heart was always stretched taut. You can choose your own room on the first floor. Tan Xiu ordered and then went to the second floor alone. Since the 2 nannies were not there, he went straight to the bathroom on the second floor to take a shower, change into clean clothes, and then walked into the study room. But before he could sit down, he heard a familiar voice coming from the window. Xiaowan, Auntie's braised pork ribs are absolutely superb. I promise you won't forget it after eating it. As for the crab, Auntie didn't make it well, especially the configuration of the dipping sauce. It's not as good as the dipping sauce provided by those specialized seafood restaurants. I need you to make it later. Don't worry, Auntie. We'll steam the crab and I'll take care of the dipping sauce. All right, all right. Tan Xiu stood at the window. To his surprise, the 2 women who came back with the basket were his mother, Su Lingyun, and his god-sister, Qin Xiaowan. Before he could call out to them, he saw Tang 28's group of 5 darting out of the villa. They pulled out their daggers and coldly intercepted them. Su Lingyun and Qin Xiaowan were dumbfounded. They had just left not long ago. How could there suddenly be so many children in the house? Moreover, these children were all brimming with murderous intent, just like little fiends. 28. Tan Xiu's figure flickered, and in just a few seconds, he appeared outside the door of the villa. With a smile on his face, he continued, remember, the 5 of you. They're my family, and they'll be the ones you need to protect in the future. Put away your weapons. Tang 28's group of 5 immediately put away their daggers. An excited look appeared on Su Lingyun's face the moment she saw Tan Xiu. She suppressed her confusion and strode toward Tan Xiu. She observed him and said with a distressed expression, where have you been this summer, son? Look at you, you've become darker and thinner than before. You must not have been eating and drinking well and didn't take good care of yourself. I've been busy with some things abroad recently, Mom, said Tan Xiu with a smile. I just returned to the country. But how come you're in Shanghai? Where's my dad? Your dad went to the imperial capital. Su Lingyun chuckled. Your grandpa's 80th birthday is in a week. He went there ahead of time to prepare. I saw that you haven't returned to Star City since the semester started, so I was worried that something might have happened to you. That's why I came here. Fortunately, Kang Xia told me that you were busy abroad, so I didn't call you. I just stayed here and waited for you to come back. You could have called me. Tan Xiu chuckled. Who said I didn't call you? Su Lingyun snappily retorted. I called you more than a dozen times in the past few days, but I couldn't get through. That's why I guessed that the phone signal abroad must be bad. Ugh, Only then did Tan Xiu recall that he had been training the Boy Scouts in the past few days and then hurried back to the country without stopping. He didn't even bother to charge his mobile phone when it ran out of battery. Shaking his head, Tan Xiu then looked at Qin Shaowan and smilingly said, "I haven't seen you for a few months, Sis Shaowan. You seem to have become more beautiful." "You're such a sweet talker, kid," said Qin Shaowan with a charming smile. "This big sis will steam some crabs for you later." "Mom, Sis Shaowan, this is Tang 28. He's an orphan I adopted a year ago and brought along with me this time." Tan Xiu nodded with a smile. "They didn't know your and Sis Shaowan's identities just now, so, please don't mind them." Su Lingyun suddenly looked enlightened after hearing it and said with a bit of blame, "They're still kids, Xiu. How can you let them carry daggers with them? What if they accidentally hurt themselves with such a dangerous thing? They're all cultivators, Mom, and their strength is quite good." Tan Xiu chuckled. "Don't worry, they won't have any accidents and they won't hurt themselves. I just came back, so I'm going to school after dinner. It's September 10th, after all, and I haven't reported to school yet. It's indeed a few days late." Su Lingyun quickly nodded and said, "You can't neglect your studies no matter how busy you are, kid. I'm going to cook now. You have to hurry to school after dinner and apologize to your teachers." "All right." Tan Xiu nodded with a smile. As Su Lingyun and Qin Shaowan entered the villa and went straight to the kitchen, Tan Xiu then spoke to Tang 28's group of 5, "Don't easily take out your daggers from now on, and don't easily hurt people. Tang 28, you'll follow me from now on. The 4 of you will stay here and watch the house. Remember, you're all cultivators and you're not allowed to show your strength in front of ordinary people." "Understood." Tang 28's group of 5 hurriedly complied. During the meal, even though Su Lingyun and Qin Shaowan repeatedly asked Tang 28's group of 5 to eat with them, they stubbornly refused. Only after Su Lingyun and Qin Shaowan served them did they take their bowls back to their room to eat. Such a situation made Su Lingyun and Qin Shaowan reprimanded Tan Xiu for a long time. However, Tan Xiu still used the word rules to brush them off. He hurriedly finished his meal and then rushed to Shanghai University. However, as soon as he arrived at the gate of the University of Monster Science and Technology, he saw a few luxury supercars parked near the gate. A few young men dressed in gaudy clothes with arrogant faces were leaning against the luxury supercars, pointing at the girls going in and out of the school and commenting on them. Hedonistic playboys are everywhere. Tan Xiu secretly shook his head. He went straight to the campus gate and then ran into trouble. "Hey, handsome, can you help me? Can I borrow your cell phone?" Several girls wearing famous brands and obviously wearing makeup blocked Tan Xiu's path. The girl in the lead boldly stretched out her hand. "Hey, beauties, are you hitting on this handsome guy?" Tan Xiu forced a wry smile. But this method of asking for his cell phone number is a bit outdated. The girl giggled and said, "We have no choice. Suddenly seeing a handsome guy makes us so happy that we can't think of any new tricks. Just give us your cell phone number, handsome. If you have nothing to do later, we'll treat you to dinner." "I have a girlfriend," Tan Xiu said with a smile. The girl was stunned and then said with some disappointment, "It's okay. It's okay even if you have a girlfriend. It's very normal for couples to break up these days. There's no wall that can't be pried open and there's no boyfriend that can't be snatched in this world. Besides, you're not married yet. It's not immoral for us to pursue a handsome guy we like." Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing. He didn't expect that girls nowadays were so bold and thick-skinned. He recalled that when he was in middle school, boys and girls didn't have many contacts. Also, in primary school, there was a line between boys and girls who shared the same desk. Then, Tan Xiu made up a cell phone number and took out his dead cell phone to show them. Then, he smoothly slipped away under their dissatisfied expressions. He arrived at the dormitory. To Tan Xiu's surprise, there was no one in the dormitory. Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong were nowhere to be found. At this time, they shouldn't be in class. Even if they went to eat, they should have eaten by now. Wow! What a rare guest. The door of the opposite dormitory was unlatched. After Tan Xiu pushed the door and entered, Zhao Yang, who was listening to music with his headset, suddenly had his eyes lit up. He took off his headset and grinned. It's just that I came to campus a few days late. Tan Xiu said with a smile. Is there a need to make such a fuss? That's right, where are you Kai and the others? I just went to the dormitory and saw that they're not there. You still don't know, Big Bro Tang. Zhao Yang grinned. Yu Kai and the others are now running to the girls' dormitory. I heard that they're helping Hu Qingsong pursue a freshman girl. My guess is that they must be going to the girls' dormitory now. Is old Hu in heat again? Tan Xiu said with a smile. Not only old Hu, even Yu Kai is in heat. Zhao Yang waved his hand. Speaking of which, there are a lot of beauties among the freshmen this year, and some of them are the best. Although they aren't as beautiful as Campus Belmu, the gap is not that big. Don't talk nonsense. I'll go find them, Tan Xiu said with a smile. Zhao Yang hurriedly stopped Tan Xiu and said with a strange smile, Big Bro Tang, it's best if you don't go. Else what? Tan Xiu was confused. Else what will old Hu and the others do? Zhao Yang laughed. Your charm index is already at the top of our campus's most handsome guy list. If you go there, old Hu and the others won't be able to pursue the junior sister they like. Instead, it'll be you who will get into a debt of love. Cough, cough. Although Tan Xiu didn't want to admit it, he was somewhat in awe of women inwardly. He had enough women now, but he didn't want to provoke other women. Chapter 997. The friendship between classmates was pure and real. It was neither mixed with interests nor intrigue. Despite being exceptionally mature, Tan Xiu still enjoyed the camaraderie as a college classmate. After borrowing Zhao Yang's charger, Tan Xiu dialed Yu Kai's number and learned that they were really at the girls' dormitory. Apart from forcing a wry smile, he didn't know how to express his feelings. Appetite and lust were part of his nature. The ancestor's words were indeed reasonable. Even though it was no longer spring, a man in heat still couldn't control his male hormones. But thinking about it, finding a girlfriend was indeed a good choice. At least, he didn't need to trouble himself with the fifth young lady, and he could balance his yin and yang, which was good for his physical and mental health. Zhao Yang, I'll leave first to deal with something. I'll go straight to the classroom in the afternoon. Tan Xiu unplugged his mobile charger. Although it was less than 10% charged, he still walked out of the dormitory. Where are you going, Big Bro Tang? Asked Zhao Yang. I'm going to find Teacher Han, said Tan Xiu. Zhao Yang followed him out of the dormitory and leaned against the door, chuckling, then you better pray for yourself. Teacher Han just came back to campus a few days ago, and she's obviously not in a good mood. Be careful, she'll deal with you severely if you provoke her. Tan Xiu stared blankly for a moment and frowned. You said she just came back to campus a few days ago. She didn't come to campus a few days ago. Yeah. Zhao Yang nodded. I heard she asked for sick leave and came back a few days ago with a strange expression on her face. I heard that the dean advised her to rest for a few days, but she refused. A thoughtful look flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes. It was absolutely difficult for Han Qingwu to fall sick given her physical fitness. After all, she had become a cultivator and her strength was not weak. But her complexion looked bad, so there was probably only one possibility: she was injured. Who could have injured her? All kinds of thoughts flashed in Tan Xiu's mind. After bidding farewell to Zhao Yang, he left the dormitory. While strolling on the campus forest trail, Tan Xiu dialed Han Qingwu's cell number. Where are you? You're back. Where are you? Han Qingwu was silent for a moment before she slowly said, Cafeteria. Tan Xiu said, I'll wait for you at the school gate. Tan Xiu hung up the phone and walked out of the school. He had two main reasons for returning to Shanghai this time. One was to report back to school, and the other was to test Han Qinggu. Now that he had confirmed that Han Qinggu was the reincarnation of Shui Qingcheng, he still needed to figure out if Han Qinggu had completely recovered her memory. Before he had obtained the Violet Fairy, he had no way of testing it out. But now it was different. The appearance of the Violet Fairy had finally given him away. Ring, 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 his phone suddenly rang. Tan Xiu looked at the name on the caller ID in surprise and found that the call was actually from Qin Zhizhong. Zhizhong, what's up? I'm now at the entrance of Shanghai University, master, said Qin Zhizhong respectfully. I went to the Blue Star Villa complex to look for you, but I heard that you came to the campus, so I came over. Is it convenient for you to meet me now? What are you doing in Shanghai? Asked Tan Xiu. I have a very important matter to report to you, master, said Qin Zhizhong. Also, I want to consult you about some things related to cultivation. Wait for me at the campus gate, I'll be there soon, said Tan Xiu. After hanging up the phone, Tan Xiu continued to walk toward the campus gate. He knew Qin Zhizhong. If Qin Zhizhong didn't have something important, he would never come to Shanghai to find him. Moreover, Qin Zhizhong was, after all, his disciple. Although he was only a registered disciple, it was still necessary for him to give him pointers in cultivation. When Tan Xiu walked out of the campus gate, he found that the luxury supercars parked outside the campus gate had disappeared, and those hedonistic young masters had also dispersed. A black Mercedes-Benz was parked at the campus gate, and Qin Zhizhong was standing in front of the car, waiting for him. Zhizhong. After Tan Xiu walked over, he found that Qin Zhizhong's cultivation had broken through to the foundation establishment stage. Moreover, it was at the late stage of foundation establishment, and he was probably not far from breaking through to the golden core stage. Qin Zhizhong respectfully saluted and said, "Did I disturb you, master?" "It's nothing." Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "I just came out when you called me." "Tell me, what important matter do you have to tell me?" Qin Zhizhong looked around and found that no one was paying attention to them. Then, he said in a low voice, "Master, one of the executives of my company heard that a psychic herb appeared in the depths of Changbai Mountain some time ago, so I secretly took some people to go there after I learned about it from him. In the end, we didn't find the psychic herb, but we found a mysterious cave." "What's inside the cave?" asked Tan Xiu. "We tried everything we could, but we couldn't open the cave's door," said Qin Zhizhong with a forced smile. "But we found several precious ores at the entrance." After saying that, he immediately opened the trunk of the Mercedes-Benz sedan and took out a silver password-locked box. After returning to Tan Xiu, he put the silver password-locked box on the hood of the car and entered the password to open it. Then, he said again, "These are the ores, master. I've read a lot of information and finally figured out what kind of ore it is. Blood Soul Stone is a living person who was dissected and put into the body of the person who didn't die. After being stored in the body for at least 10 years, it was then frozen for hundreds of years or even thousands of years before it finally formed into a Blood Soul Stone. According to the ancient records, Blood Soul Stones have the effect of suppressing the soul." Tan Xiu gently grabbed a piece and carefully observed it. Then, he faintly sighed and said, "It's indeed a Blood Soul Stone. I didn't expect that there would be such a thing on Earth." "That's right. Blood Soul Stones are precious ores and very rare. It's an extremely precious gem for cultivators who can use it." "Do you know how to use it, master?" asked Qin Zhizhong. "Yeah, I do." Tan Xiu nodded. A pleasantly surprised look appeared on Qin Zhizhong's face as he said, "Master, since you regard it as an extremely precious gem, then it means that there's definitely something even better inside the cave we found. I came here this time to report this matter to you." A glint flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes as he understood what Qin Zhizhong meant. For such a good thing like Blood Soul Stones to be found outside the cave, it was likely that there were even more good things inside. If he could really find some good things that could be helpful to cultivators, then it could be said that he had made a great contribution here. Zhizhong, you settle down in Shanghai first. I need to handle something. I'll contact you immediately after I'm done with my work, and then we'll go to Changbai Mountain together, said Tan Xiu. I've already settled down in the Hilton Hotel, master, said Chen Zhizhong respectfully. I'll send the room number to your mobile phone later. Tan Xiu nodded. When he saw Han Qinggu coming out of the school gate, he said, I'll go find you after I'm done with my work. You can go back first. Yes, master. Chen Zhizhong replied and quickly boarded the car to leave. Tan Xiu turned around and looked at Han Qinggu in front of him. After a moment of silence, he said, there's an ice skating rink nearby. Let's go there and have a chat. An ice skating rink? Han Qinggu was silent for a moment. She found that Tan Xiu had already turned around and left. She hesitated for a moment before she followed him. She didn't know why Tan Xiu asked her out, but she had been preparing for it for more than a year. What she prayed for was that the day would come later. It was September, and Shanghai was still hot. Noon was the hottest time of the day. There were no guests skating in the empty ice skating rink. There were only 2 staff members who were eating melon seeds and chatting with each other. How much does it cost to book the rink? Tan Xiu came in front of the 2 staff members and directly asked. Upon hearing this, the 2 staff members suddenly became spirited. They looked at Tan Xiu and Han Qinggu, thinking that they were rich young masters who brought women to have fun. One of them immediately said, it's 3,000 yuan per hour. How long do you want to book the rink? Tan Xiu took out his wallet and took out a stack of 100 yuan bills from it. He handed it over and said, here's 5,000 yuan in cash. I'll book the rink for an hour. But I have a request. You can't stay here. We don't want to be disturbed by others. No problem. The staff member took the money in surprise and quickly left with his colleague. Han Qinggu just looked at Tan Xiu quietly. She knew that Tan Xiu wasn't the kind of person who would waste money casually, even if he was very rich now. He brought her here and took out so much money. There must be a reason for him to do so. And this intention was most likely to be used on him. Bam! 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 Tan Xiu flicked his wrist and 3 silver needles instantly shot out and accurately hit the monitors in 3 directions. At this time, he turned to look at Han Qinggu and indifferently said, you remember everything? Han Qinggu shuddered inwardly, yet she pretended to look confused and asked back, what? Tan Xiu sneered and walked to the center of the rink. Only then did he stop and said in a deep voice, you can hide it for a while, but you can't hide it forever. If my guess is correct, you were the one who helped me in Bangkok, right? And the woman who appeared in the Pacific Ocean was also you, wasn't she? I don't get what you mean. Han Qinggu shook her head. Are you deliberately playing the fool? Tan Xiu sneered. Tan Xiu, if you have something to say, just spit it out. Don't beat around the bush, said Han Qinggu. I don't know why you have such a big hostility toward me. But if I've done something wrong to you, just tell me directly now. I'm sure we can make it clear if it's just a misunderstanding. Make it clear. Tan Xiu felt a dull pain inside. He did want Han Qinggu to make it clear, but he had no way to figure out whether Han Qinggu had recovered the memory of her past life or not. Whoosh, an oval-shaped utensil appeared in Tan Xiu's hand out of thin air. Tan Xiu then looked straight at Han Qinggu and indifferently said, I personally refined this thing and gave it to my beloved. You should have seen it, right? Chapter 998. An incredulous look flashed in Han Qingwu's eyes. She shook her head and said, I've never seen it before. I don't know what you're talking about. Is that so? Tan Xiu slowly opened the oval container. Along with the release of the milky white light, the violet fairy flapped her cicada-like wings and cheered as she rushed out of the container. Oh, little Wu Wu came out again. Bad guy, little Wu Wu doesn't want to stay in this pocket world anymore. Tan Xiu didn't look at the violet fairy. His pair of eyes that seemed to be able to see through people's hearts were fixedly staring at Han Qingwu's expression. He keenly caught that the moment the violet fairy rushed out of the container, Han Qingwu's pupils suddenly contracted and her body trembled slightly. Sure enough, a cold light flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes. His figure instantly appeared in front of the violet fairy and grabbed her lightning fast. He then looked at Han Qingwu again and said, "Since you've never seen this immortal artifact of the plant world, you probably haven't seen this little thing, right? The Violet Fairy is the last bloodline of the Violet Fairy clan in the immortal world. She's also the princess of the Violet Fairy clan." Han Qingwu's fingers subconsciously pinched the corner of her clothes. Her eyes stared at the Violet Fairy, and the throbbing in her heart became more and more intense. The Violet Fairy was grabbed by Tan Xiu, and the huge force made her feel very painful. While struggling, she looked at Han Qingwu. When she saw Han Qingwu's appearance, she immediately looked ecstatic and screamed, "Master, Han Qingwu misses you, Master. Please save Han Qingwu quickly." Han Qingwu's heart was trembling. She looked at Tan Xiu's fingers that were getting more and more forceful and hurriedly shouted, "Don't hurt her, Tan Xiu. You haven't answered my question yet." Tan Xiu sneered. "You haven't seen her, have you?" Han Qingwu fell into silence. How should she answer? "Haven't you seen it before?" The strength of Tan Xiu's fingers grew stronger and stronger. Amidst the screams of the purple elf, he slowly said, "She's the last descendant of the purple elf clan and was abandoned by her master, so she's quite pitiful. I felt that killing her was actually a kind of release for her. At the very least, she wouldn't have to endure loneliness and pain anymore. Perhaps after she died, she would be able to see her relatives in the reincarnation cycle. Wait, I seem to remember something. Her relatives should have perished, right? I'd better be a good person to the end and help her to the end. I'll directly destroy her life imprint and let her disappear from this world forever." Han Qingwu's complexion changed. Her eyes flashed with pain as tears rolled down her cheeks. She clenched her fists and her nails dug deep into her flesh. She spurted out a mouthful of blood and stabilized her swaying body a few times. She shook her head and said, "Don't hurt her, Tan Xiu. Whatever you want to know, I'll tell you. I'll tell you everything." Tan Xiu loosened his fingers a little and shouted sternly, "Tell me, why?" Han Qingwu bit her red lips with her white teeth and shot a deep look at the purple elf in Tan Xiu's hand. Despair appeared on her face as she slowly closed her eyes. Time. Seconds and minutes passed by. After more than 10 minutes, she finally opened her eyes. A deathly gray color filled her eyes and her voice sounded a bit hoarse as she spat out, "I can't disobey Master's order." A cold glint flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes as he coldly snorted and said, "Zhu Wushou really has a good disciple. He has been planning for thousands of years. Even if he has to bury his eldest disciple's happiness and innocence, he still wants to kill me. It's just that I don't know when I became enemies with Shade Demon Zhu Wushou." You know that my master is Shade Demon Zhu Wushou?" Han Qingwu asked in disbelief. How is this possible? If you don't want people to know, then don't do it." Tan Xiu sneered. "But you haven't answered my question yet. Why does Shade Demon Zhu Wushou want to target me? My life is his. I've already returned it to him in the immortal world," said Han Qingwu bitterly. "After reincarnating on Earth, I no longer have any master and disciple relationship with him. The time curse he left on me can no longer threaten me. So, I can tell you. But I hope you'll agree to my request after I tell you." "Say it." Murderous intent surged inside Tan Xiu's heart as he coldly said. Han Qingwu gently walked to the front of Tan Xiu. She simply didn't care about the murderous intent coming from Tan Xiu. She pried open Tan Xiu's fingers one by one and took the purple elf in her hand. Then, she faintly said, "Promise me first. No matter what request I make, you must do it. You know me. Why do you insist on making a promise?" Tan Xiu coldly snorted. "I do know you, Tan Xiu, said Han Qinggu. That's why I want you to make a promise. Don't worry. My request won't harm any of your interests, nor will it make you make a difficult decision. It's absolutely a piece of cake for you now. I promise you, said Tan Xiu. Han Qinggu shot a deep look at Tan Xiu and slowly said, Rosefinch Holy Sect, traceless egret, slaughtered tens of thousands of races and proved her Tao as a perfected golden immortal. As a member of the Rosefinch Holy Sect, you should be very clear about what this sentence means, right? Traceless egret. Slaughtered tens of thousands of races. Tan Xiu's body trembled and countless ripples surged inside his heart. Traceless and Egret were his mother and father in the immortal world. Egret was the daughter of the Rosefinch Holy Sect's sovereign and Traceless was an ordinary disciple of the Rosefinch Holy Sect. As a result, their love for each other caused countless people to oppose them. However, the current sovereign, who was also Tan Xiu's maternal grandfather, was very satisfied with Traceless and treated him like his own son. He nurtured him and eventually made him and his wife step into the golden immortal stage. For the sake of proving their Tao. Traceless and Egret left the Rosefinch Holy Sect and roamed the immortal world, Demon Realm, and Demon Realm for 3,000 years. They slaughtered countless powerful enemies and finally relied on killing to prove their Tao and break through to the perfected golden immortal stage. Tan Xiu stared fixedly at Han Qinggu and asked in a deep voice, among the people my parents killed, were there shade demon Zhu Wushou's relatives? More than relatives, said Han Qinggu faintly. His parents, siblings, and all his childhood friends died in the hands of your parents. For a long time, Zhu Wushou carried a deep hatred and constantly broke through to the next realm, becoming stronger and stronger. In order to control time and resurrect his relatives from the river of time, his Tao was time and space. Ever since your parents stepped into the perfected golden immortal stage, they always stayed in the Rosefinch Holy Sect and rarely left for thousands of years. Along the way, he would occasionally leave, but he would quickly return to the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect. Thus, even though Zhu Wushou hadn't given up on the idea of revenge for 10,000 years, he gradually began to shift his hatred to Traceless Egret's relatives. Fortunately for you, there were two perfected golden immortals protecting you in secret. They only acted when you were in a life and death crisis. Otherwise, they always hid in the dark and protected you as you slowly grew up. However, many of your clansmen died or went missing without a trace under Zhu Wushou's secret plan. So your Rosefinch Holy Sect investigated for a long time but didn't find any clues in the end. Hence, it was left unsettled. As your strength grew stronger and your cultivation broke through to the perfected golden immortal stage, the two experts protecting you returned to the Rosefinch Holy Sect. It was at that time that I became a pawn in Zhu Wushou's scheme. Unfortunately, no matter how much Zhu Wushou calculated, he didn't expect your talent to be so heaven-defying. You actually broke through to the Supreme Being realm before he did. Hence, his plan was stalled until he noticed that your close friends were secretly dissatisfied with you. Tan Xiu's face turned gloomy and he coldly said, So, you waited until I was crossing the tribulation and secretly ambushed me? A pained look flashed in Han Qingwu's eyes, but she easily concealed it and said, That's right. Shade Demon Zhu Wushou promised that as long as we joined hands to kill you, he'd lift the curse of time on me and release my relatives. What he promised Great Emperor Danqing and Jiuyaoqin Demon was to borrow the Time Pagoda for 1,000 years so that they could cultivate in the accelerated time. The fog that had accumulated in Tan Xiu's heart was finally dispelled by Han Qingwu's words. He was once betrayed by his beloved and close friends, and the heart-wrenching pain made his soul bleed. Wrong love. He was plotted against in the end. If Han Qingwu hadn't poisoned him in advance, it would have been impossible to take his life even if Great Emperor Danqing and Jiuyaoqin Demon joined hands. The person who hurt him the most was Han Qingwu in front of him. No, it should be Shui Qingqing in front of him. Why didn't you hide? A cold light flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes as he shouted sternly. Han Qingwu released Violet Fairy and let her fly to her shoulder. She bitterly said, I've repaid what I owed my master. But I haven't repaid what I owe you. You should be very clear about my Han. Shui Qingqing's character. Why ask again? Aren't you afraid that I'll kill you? Tan Xiu angrily shouted. Aren't you afraid that I'll make your soul scatter and never reincarnate? A gentle look emerged in Han Qingwu's eyes. A gentle smile suddenly appeared on her pale face as she shook her head and said, I'm not afraid. Do you still remember my request just now? A divine sword appeared in Tan Xiu's hand out of thin air. He pointed the sword at the sky and sneered, You want me to spare your life? Dream on. Han Qingwu shook her head and said, My request is to kill me. What? Tan Xiu looked at Han Qingwu incredulously. She had reincarnated and obtained a new life. It was not impossible for her to cultivate to the perfected golden immortal stage again given her former ability. Even if she was given enough time, it wouldn't be a problem for her to break through to the supremacy stage. However, her request turned out to be for him to kill her. Suddenly, Tan Xiu recalled something and asked in a deep voice, After you plotted against me, Great Emperor Danqing and Jiuyaoqin demon wouldn't go so far as to kill you, right? After all, you're Shade Demon Zhu Wushou's disciple, and you've completed the mission he gave you. Is there any point in fussing about this now? Han Qingwu asked faintly. Chapter 999. Tan Xiu pointed to his heart and said in a deep voice, I don't want to leave my last question here. Tell me. How did you die? How did you have the chance to leave your true spirit and reincarnate again after your death? Han Qingwu shook her head and didn't answer Tan Xiu's question. She slowly closed her eyes and gently spread her hands. The scene in the immortal world appeared in her mind. She was dressed in a red dress that was as red as blood and singing. She hugged the corpse of her beloved who was killed by her, dissipated her cultivation and committed suicide. True spirit. Before she dissipated, she discovered that a trace of Tan Xiu's true spirit was not devoured by the river of time. Instead, it tore the space in the heavenly tribulation and entered the primal chaos of nothingness. She then used a forbidden technique to follow the last trace of Tan Xiu's true spirit into the samsara of this world. Do it. At this moment, Han Qingwu became calm and composed. A golden core the size of a ping-pong ball flew out of her body and floated in front of her glabella. Tan Xiu angrily glared at Han Qingwu in front of him. Seeing how she was begging for death, killing intent crazily surged inside his heart. The long sword in his hand was already trembling slightly. His blood-soaked heart was also hurting even more. The dream of grandeur was as beautiful as a painting, but being reborn was like crawling out of hell. Kill! 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 Tan Xiu roared inwardly, but the divine sword he lifted was especially heavy. He struggled and hesitated. He sadly found that he couldn't do it after figuring out the truth of the matter. That's right, he couldn't do it. In the past, Shui Qingqing could make him drink poison and pierce his heart. But he sadly found that he couldn't use the divine sword in his hand to reap the life of his beloved even if he was full of hatred. Roar, a roar similar to the roar of a wild beast came out of Tan Xiu's throat. He was like a god of death. He finally waved the divine sword in his hand and tore open a bloody wound on Han Qingwu's face. Her peerless beauty was destroyed in a single day. One strike. Cut off Tan Xiu's last nostalgia for Shui Qingqing, cut off the past, and turned into clouds and smoke. He couldn't kill her, but he wanted to destroy the face in his dreams. Bleak and sorrowful. The murderous aura on Tan Xiu's body completely dissipated, replaced by a sense of loneliness and vicissitudes that came from the soul. Slowly turning around, he no longer looked at Han Qingwu's current appearance. With his back facing Han Qingwu, he took a few steps forward. His voice had also become a little hoarse. Sunshine Avenue, Lonely Tree Bridge. From now on, you and I don't want to work together anymore. Han Qingwu looked at Tan Xiu's back, her eyes flashing with heartache. Suddenly, she revealed a bright smile. That ghastly wound was dyed red by the rapidly gushing blood, but she did not have any intention of raising her hand to wipe it. If it was in the past, if it was still in the immortal world, even if Tan Xiu did not kill her, she might have taken the initiative to raise her sword and end her life. But now, she did not do so. The memories of her past life and this life blended together, causing her character to change a little bit. To live, even if she didn't want to do it, she could still watch him. Even if she hid in a distant corner, even if she was hidden in time and space, she still wanted to watch him from afar. He needed it. Take action. He didn't need it. Watch. At this moment, Han Qinggu already understood that her life in the future only depended on him. Tan Xiu left the skating rink and left in a daze under the strange gazes of the two staff members outside. He didn't go back to the campus, nor did he go back to Blue Star Villa complex, nor did he go to the Hilton Hotel to find Chen Zhizhong. He seemed to have lost his soul as he walked on the bustling streets of Shanghai, wandering aimlessly without any direction. The sun set in the west and night fell. When Tang Xiu sobered up from his muddle-headed state, he found that he was standing at the entrance of the Everlasting Feast Hall's Shanghai branch. 8 stalwart men formed a circle around him, firmly guarding him inside and preventing anyone from disturbing him. Qi Nan, who was dressed in a red dress and had a worried expression on her face, was staring into his eyes without moving. Disperse. Tang Xiu took a deep breath. As the primal chaos force surged in his meridians, his whole body broke free from the muddle-headedness. The demonic barrier in his heart had vanished after settling the grudge between them. The improvement of his mind made him strangely realize that he had unknowingly completed the first stage of the heavenly art of cosmic genesis, the star's tyrannical body realm. A nascent soul stage cultivator is enough to kill. Tan Xiu strode forward and entered the Everlasting Feast Hall's entrance. Under countless strange gazes, he went straight to the manager's office on the second floor. Boss. Qi Nan, who followed him inside, wanted to say something but hesitated. The worry in her eyes had yet to fade. Tan Xiu shook his head and sat on the soft leather sofa. He took out a cigarette, lit it, and took a few puffs. Then, he slowly said, "Don't worry. I'm fine." Upon hearing it, Qi Nan immediately felt relieved and asked, "Boss, I just came from Jingmen Island this afternoon. I've already handed over the business here to someone else. Is there anything else you want me to do?" "Give me something to eat," said Tan Xiu. "Drink some wine with me while you're at it." "I'll arrange it right away." Qi Nan nodded. As Qi Nan left the office, Tan Xiu no longer thought about Han Qingwu's matter. He had figured out the matter and solved it after returning to Shanghai. It could be considered as a successful step. He didn't want to think about the past anymore. The matter with Xue Qingqing had come to an end, but the enmity between Great Emperor Danqing and Jiuyaoqin demon had yet to be resolved. There was also that shade demon Zhu Wushou. He must die. The second thing. Tan Xiu recalled the matter with Shanghai University and suddenly felt a faint headache. If he didn't kill Han Qinggu, she would probably still be a teacher at Shanghai University and his class teacher. Forget it. I'll quit school first. Tan Xiu didn't intend to quit school directly. After all, his mother attached great importance to the university graduation certificate. It was her long-cherished wish for many years, and he couldn't let her fail. After smoking a cigarette, Qi Nan returned to Tan Xiu's front. She respectfully said, "Boss, I've given the order and the meal will be ready soon. There's something I need to report to you before we eat." "What is it?" asked Tan Xiu. "Kang Xia looked for you a few days ago, but she couldn't get in touch with you, so she called my cell number," said Qi Nan. "I didn't ask about the specific matter. But judging from her attitude at that time, she seemed to be very anxious." Kang Xia. Only then did Tan Xiu remember that he hadn't contacted Kang Xia for a long time. She should have been busy with the magnificent Tang Corporation's affairs in recent months, especially the internal purchase of Star City's new city, so she didn't take the initiative to contact him. However, it was also possible that she had contacted him, but he often appeared in places without mobile signal, so she couldn't contact him. Tan Xiu took out his mobile and dialed Kang Xia's cell number. Shortly after, Kang Xia's urgent voice came from the phone. Tan Xiu, is that you? Tan Xiu let out a smile and said, it's me. I just returned to the country and am now in Shanghai. I want to go to Shanghai to see you now, said Kang Xia. I heard from Qi Nan that you were looking for me a few days ago. It seems like there's something very urgent. Tan Xiu asked. What is it? Tang Xiu asked. It's Andy. There's something wrong with her body. If you don't have anything urgent, I want to take her to see you. What happened to Andy? Tan Xiu's expression slightly changed as he asked in a deep voice. It seems that there's something wrong with her cultivation, said Kang Xia bitterly. It's a case of cultivation deviation. In the past few days, she has been in a coma. When she was sent to the hospital for examination, even the experts in the hospital could not figure out her condition. Wait for me in Star City. I'll rush back to Star City immediately, said Tan Xiu in a deep voice. After hanging up the phone, Tan Xiu dialed Chen Zhizhong's cell number and told him to wait for him at the airport. He didn't stay in the Everlasting Feast Hall for dinner and was sent to the Blue Star Villa complex by Qi Nan. After that, he went to find his mother, Su Lingyun. Mom, I need to go back to Star City immediately. Someone is seriously injured there and I need to rush back to treat her. Will you continue to stay in Shanghai? Or do you want to go back to Star City with me? Tan Xiu asked. Su Lingyun hurriedly asked, who's injured? Do I know him? Tan Xiu said, you know her. She's Andy. Su Lingyun quickly said, what's wrong with Andy? Let's go back to Star City together. My purpose in coming to Shanghai is to find you. Since you're going back to Star City, it's meaningless for me to stay here. Nothing else matters. Andy's injury is the most important thing now. Tan Xiu complied and called Ouyang Lulu. He then used her plane to directly send him and the others to Star City. Just as the group came out of Star City Airport, the driver arranged by Chen Zhizhong in advance was already waiting outside with several cars. Where are we going, Master? Asked Chen Zhizhong. I'm going back to South Gate Town. You take your people back first, said Tan Xiu. Andy is injured and needs my treatment. I'll find you after I stabilize her condition. How about I go with you, Master? Said Chen Zhizhong quickly. I'm in the medicinal herbs business, after all. If you need any medicinal herbs for your treatment, I can immediately arrange it. Tan Xiu thought about it and refused Chen Zhizhong's request. If his mother, Su Lingyun, was not there, he wouldn't mind Chen Zhizhong following him. But Chen Zhizhong was about the same age as his mother, and he called him master, which made his mother very uncomfortable. Go back and wait for me. I'll contact you first if I need anything. I'll listen to you, master. Chen Zhizhong nodded. South Gate Town. Inside the View Building King Villa, Kang Xia had brought Andy over. At this moment, she was anxiously pacing back and forth in front of the villa's courtyard. Her eyes kept glancing at the South Gate Town's entrance. Andy's sudden cultivation deviation made her very worried. In her eyes, aside from Tan Xiu, Andy was the closest person to her. Kang Xia didn't want to see anything bad happen to her. She didn't want to see an accident that she couldn't accept. Chapter 1000. When Tan Xiu rushed back to South Gate Town, he saw Kang Xia's worried and haggard appearance. He didn't bother to comfort her and followed her to the guest room where Andy was in a coma. Don't let anyone disturb me. Tan Xiu ordered and grabbed Andy's wrist. After checking her pulse, he learned that Andy had overdosed on medicinal pills. Her body couldn't bear the huge medicinal efficacy and eventually lost control. Her pulse was now in a mess, and the true essence inside her body was even more chaotic. If it wasn't cleared in time, even if she wouldn't die, she would have to scatter her cultivation to recover. Nonsense, nonsense. Tan Xiu forced a smile and loosened Andy's pulse. He shook his head inside. Then, he helped Andy up from the bed and let her sit cross-legged. Then, he began to regulate the chaotic true essence in her meridians. Fortunately, Andy's cultivation wasn't high. She was only at the mid-stage of foundation establishment. Otherwise, Tan Xiu wouldn't be able to regulate her body's condition. Time flew by. For 6 hours, Tan Xiu spent a lot of energy to regulate Andy's body. After letting her lie down again, Tan Xiu walked out of the room. "How is it?" Kang Xia, who was anxiously waiting outside, hurriedly asked. Tan Xiu nodded and said, "Her condition has stabilized. She'll be fine after she wakes up and recuperates on her own." She didn't suffer from cultivation deviation, but the grade of the medicinal pills she took was too high. With her current cultivation, she can't bear such a strong medicinal efficacy. That's why this problem occurred. She endured it. Kang Xia's hanging heart finally calmed down. But Tan Xiu's words made her feel strange and speechless. Tan Xiu smiled and put his arm around her shoulder. Then, he asked, "Are you rich recently? Even if you have money, you can't waste medicinal pills like that." "She's lucky this time. At least she's alive. But if the medicinal pills she took were of a higher grade, I'm afraid the medicinal efficacy would have caused her body to explode." Kang Xia smiled and said, "You're indeed rich recently. Haven't you checked your private account?" Tan Xiu stared blankly for a moment before he shook his head and said, "I've been dealing with some matters abroad recently, so I really haven't checked my private account." "What was going on? Where did you get so much money?" Kang Xia was at a loss whether she had to cry or laugh. Money is just like a number in your eyes now. It's meaningless. Our magnificent Tang Corp's products are simply making a lot of money every day, and the supply can't meet the demand. I've invested all of this income into the construction of the headquarters in Shanghai. It should be enough. But don't forget about the internal purchase problem of the new city. In just a few months, the new city's housing prices have increased by 3 to 4 times compared to the opening price. Half of the properties we bought have already been sold. Tan Xiu asked curiously, "I did ask about the internal purchase of the new city property in the early stages, but I didn't have the time to pay attention to it later, so I don't know much about it. How much did our magnificent Tang Corp invest in the property we purchased in the early stage?" Kang Xia stretched out a finger and then stretched out 2 fingers. She then giggled and said, "Guess how much is this?" Tan Xiu said in surprise, 12 billion. Kang Xia gave him a thumbs up and praised, "You're really worthy to be the man I fancy. You're really smart." That's right. The total investment of the magnificent Tang Corp in the early stages is 12 billion yuan. Whether it's the residential buildings or the shops, the total value has reached about 40 billion yuan. Almost all the residential buildings have been sold for a total of 18.5 billion yuan. I've transferred 15 billion yuan to your private account, while the remaining 3 billion yuan is in the magnificent Tang Corp's public account. The remaining 500 million yuan will be used as dividends. It seems that the real estate business is really profitable." Tan Xiu sighed and said, "No wonder most of the tycoons in the country were real estate developers in the early years. How's the progress of the new city's construction?" The first phase of the new city's construction has been completed, and some finishing works are being carried out. Most of the second phase has been completed, and it's expected to be completed early next year. Preparations for the third and fourth phases have already begun. Once the second phase is completed, the third and fourth phases can be carried out at the same time. The document issued by the government has stated that the new city's construction will be fully handed over to us while they will provide assistance. Long Hanwen has been looking for you recently, but unfortunately, even I can't find you, so he gave up for the time being. "Why is he looking for me?" asked Tan Xiu. "You're the one who personally drew all the engineering designs." Kang Xia forced a smile. "The reason why the sale is so good, to the point that the rich and famous people from all over the country have come to buy the properties, is all because the architectural design is superb. The new city built is just like a dream city. However, you, a busy man, have only designed the first and second phases. The third and fourth phases haven't been produced yet. Let alone Long Hanwen, even I'm a bit anxious. Could it be that the government has given up all the authority? Tan Xiu frowned and asked. Are they really not willing to get involved? Of course they want to get involved. But this matter is very complicated, said Kang Xia. With Long Hanwen and the other forces dealing with the government, our magnificent Tang Corp will be much more relaxed. How much of the new city's area will be occupied by the first 4 phases? Tan Xiu nodded and asked. 1/5, answered Kang Xia. Cough, cough. Tan Xiu was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh as he looked at Kang Xia. Then, he helplessly said, the first 4 phases will only occupy 1/5 of the entire new city? Doesn't that mean I still have to draw a lot of architectural designs? Well, the capable have more work. Kang Xia giggled. Besides, we're the ones who have the biggest advantage in this cooperation. You'll have to work hard for the sake of making money. Tan Xiu shook his head helplessly. Fortunately, he didn't need to design all the architectural designs at once. He could only draw one architectural design for the next 2 phases. Otherwise, he would have to put down the things at hand for a while and devote himself to the architectural design drawing. However, although the time was occupied, it didn't consume too much of his good cells. After all, there were countless buildings in the immortal world as a reference. He could even directly copy the suitable ones, so it was very easy to draw the design. At the corner of the corridor, Su Lingyun appeared wearing an apron. Upon seeing Tan Xiu and Kang Xia chatting intimately, a smile immediately appeared on her face as she asked, "How's Andy, Xiu?" Tan Xiu released Kang Xia and greeted her with a smile, "She's fine now. She'll recover after she wakes up and recuperates for a few days." "Don't we have a nanny at home, Mom? Why did you cook by yourself?" "How can I not cook by myself when my son is at home?" Su Lingyun smiled. "I asked her this afternoon. Xia hasn't eaten for 2 days. Now that Andy is fine, I'm afraid she'll have an appetite again. But now, anyone can go hungry, but Xia must go hungry." Xia. Tan Xiu looked at Kang Xia with a strange expression. Since when did the relationship between them become so close? Also, what did his mother mean by that? Kang Xia secretly glanced at Tan Xiu as a blush appeared on her cheeks. She quickly came to Su Lingyun's side, skillfully held her arm and smilingly said, "I'm not hungry, Auntie." Su Lingyun smiled and said, "You're such a thin-skinned child. You'll be the daughter-in-law of the Tang family sooner or later, so how can you not eat? I'm looking forward to having a big fat grandson soon." Huh? Tan Xiu was dumbfounded. He didn't expect that his mother would be so clear about his relationship with Kang Xia. He didn't expect that his mother would actually look forward to Kang Xia giving him a big fat grandson. Could it be that the one he was going to marry in the future wasn't Mu Weiniang? Could it be that his mother really agreed to him having many women at the same time? Tan Xiu really couldn't figure out what his mother was thinking. He secretly shook his head and smilingly said, "I'm afraid it'll take some time for Andy to wake up. Let's go to eat first. I've been busy all afternoon, so I'm a bit hungry." "What delicious food did you cook, Mom?" "It's all your favorite food, don't worry," Su Lingyun said with a smile. Dinner time. While his mother, Su Lingyun, wasn't paying attention, Tan Xiu quietly whispered to Kang Xia beside him, "Since when did you become so close with my mom? She seems to regard you as the daughter-in-law of the Tang family." An arc outlined on the corner of Kang Xia's mouth. With a touch of a smile, she whispered, "Auntie often came to the company to look for me in the last few months and often sent me some food. Also, we sometimes invited each other to go shopping together." What's going on? Tan Xiu was puzzled. "As a matter of fact, we'll always choose to have a dinner at your restaurant when the company's top executives gather after the new year. About half a year ago, We had a company dinner together, so I drank a few cups of wine and was about to go back to rest. But I happened to bump into Auntie, who was helping to move some things and sprained her left foot. At that time, I didn't think much about it and hurriedly carried her to a nearby Chinese medical center to have an old Chinese doctor treat Auntie. It was also at that time that Auntie and I began to interact more. Tan Xiu suddenly understood and said with a smile, "I didn't expect you to be so smart. You flatter your future mother-in-law. Even if there's no way to give you the Tang family's daughter-in-law in the future, Mom will still love you very much. Go away." With a bit of shyness, Tan Xiu hurriedly turned her face to the side. She didn't want to be teased by Tan Xiu again. She knew that she couldn't become Tan Xiu's official daughter-in-law, but her heart was as clear as a mirror. Furthermore, she had warned herself countless times that she didn't need to care about this false reputation. As long as Tan Xiu loved her sincerely, it was enough. Therefore, although she still felt a faint sense of loss when it came from Tan Xiu's mouth, she quickly adjusted her mood. Suddenly, Kang Xia turned her head and asked in a whisper, "What's going on with those 5 children? They're very strange. They're just like robots. They do things methodically, but also very old-fashioned. I don't think they're like young children, but more like old men." Chapter 1001. Tan Xiu sighed. They're the most outstanding cultivation geniuses among the Boy Scouts, and they're much more mature compared to their peers. Since ancient times, there's a saying that children of the poor become masters of the household early. They've lost their loved ones since they were young, and growing up is the only way for them to survive under the hardships of life. They're all street children you adopted? Kang Xia was shocked. But I can feel that all 5 of them are at the foundation establishment stage. How long has it been? How old are they? How can they break through to the foundation establishment stage? Especially Tang 28, he's already at the mid-stage of the foundation establishment stage. They're able to stand out among the tens of thousands of Boy Scouts, so they're naturally very talented in cultivation, said Tan Xiu. Coupled with the steady supply of cultivation resources, it's possible for them to break through to the foundation establishment stage. You're getting more and more powerful, Tan Xiu. Kang Xia looked at him with admiration and sighed. I'm forced by the situation to do my best to train more powerhouses. Tan Xiu shook his head. The dangers we'll face in the future are far beyond your imagination. Only by constantly strengthening ourselves and strengthening our forces can we have more chances to survive in the future. Kang Xia, although you're managing the magnificent Tang Corporation, I hope you can spare as much time as possible to cultivate. Only by becoming stronger can you protect the people you want to protect in the future. I'll definitely try my best. Kang Xia nodded. After the meal, Tan Xiu accompanied his mother and Kang Xia for a while before he left South Gate Town with Tang 28 and headed to Chen Zhizhong's residence. Inside a classical-style villa, Chen Zhizhong sat cross-legged and quietly absorbed the world's spiritual qi. He had stepped on the path of cultivation, but he was too old. His cultivation progress was still very slow despite having a lot of cultivation resources. He was only at the early stage of the foundation establishment stage so far. Master. Suddenly, Chen Zhizhong opened his eyes and saw Tan Xiu standing quietly in front of him. He immediately floated up and respectfully saluted. Your cultivation progress is indeed very slow compared to those cultivation geniuses. Tan Xiu nodded. You know the orphans I adopted. You're slightly inferior compared to the most talented children among them. Chen Zhizhong said in shame, this disciple is slow-witted and has disappointed master. Aptitude is important, but age is also important. Tan Xiu shook his head. I used to have very few resources, so I couldn't help you much. But it's different now. I've obtained a lot of precious medicinal herbs and some precious alchemy materials. I can help you solve your aptitude problem. However, I'm still lacking a medicinal herb, and I need you to find it for me. Chen Zhizhong stared blankly for a moment before bursting with joy. He hurriedly asked, Master, What other medicinal herbs do you need? Tan Xiu said, dragon bone grass. Chen Zhizhong frowned and said, Master, I've never heard of this name. What is its shape like? Are there any distinctive features? Tan Xiu said, the dragon bone grass has a total of 9 shoots, like the shoots of a willow leaf. It was dotted with white dots, which looked a bit like a 5-star pattern. There was a record of dragon bone grass in the Compendium of Materia Medica. Although it was only a few words, it explained its use. You're running a medicinal herb business, and your company has a lot of medicinal herbs and a wide range of channels. Hurry up and find the dragon bone grass. I'll personally refine a marrow cleansing pill for you. Once you take the marrow cleansing pill, your physique will undergo a rebirth. Chen Zhizhong excitedly said, Master, you can rest assured. As long as there's a dragon bone grass in our country, I'll find it as fast as possible no matter how big the price is. Tan Xiu nodded and said, You're the only one living here after I came here. Chen Zhizhong nodded and said, My son has been staying in the imperial city to develop his business. I don't have any intention to let him take over the company for the time being. My parents don't want to live in Star City since they're used to living in their hometown, so my wife has been taking care of them in our hometown for the past 2 years and only comes back occasionally. Tan Xiu nodded and said, If that's the case, then I'll refine something here. I'll also guide you in your cultivation. Chen Zhizhong immediately said, I'll arrange a room for you right away. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, No need. You just need to clean up the garage. Also, I'll need a few days to refine the weapon. Tell your bodyguards not to disturb me. I'll give the order right away, Master, said Chen Zhizhong immediately. Please tell me at once if you need anything, Master. All right. Tan Xiu nodded. In the next few days, Tan Xiu accompanied his mother during the day and occasionally went to the company. Every night, he would quietly come to Chen Zhizhong's place. Artifact refining. It was a kind of identity token, but each of the refined tokens also had a protective effect, similar to a protective talisman. However, this token could only be activated once when the owner was in danger. After that, it would lose its protective effect. In just a few days, Tan Xiu had refined a total of 10,000 tokens, which he named as the Tang Sect token. It was the proof of identity of a Tang Sect disciple. At the same time, he was still paying attention to the situation on 9 Dragons Island. In recent days, more and more ships appeared near the 9th deserted island. Various forces were frequently active, and some hostile forces even fought in the waters near the 9th deserted island. Although the scale of the fight was not large, dozens of people still fell in the vast sea. A few days later, Tan Xiu bid farewell to his mother and followed Chen Zhizhong to Changbai mountain range. The Changbai mountain range was the birthplace of the Yalu River, Songhua River, and Tumun River. The total area of the area was 1,964 square kilometers, with the core area being 758 square kilometers. The highest peak of the Changbai mountain range was the General Peak in North Korea, with an altitude of 2,749 meters. The place Tan Xiu went to this time was the highest peak in China, the northeastern peak with an altitude of 2,691 meters. Before coming here, Tan Xiu believed that the data recorded in the books were correct, and he also had some understanding of the Changbai mountain range through the map. But when he entered the mountain range, he realized that he was gravely mistaken. The terrain of the mountain range was complex and steep. There were quite a few areas that had naturally formed formations. Interesting. Halfway up the main peak, Tan Xiu looked at the array in front of him with a smile on his handsome face. He could easily judge that it was not a natural array, but someone had set it up here. After studying it, he had completely comprehended this formation. Is there a problem, Master? Chen Zhizhong's cultivation had been advancing by leaps and bounds under Tan Xiu's guidance in the past few days. Even his state of mind had improved a lot. Although his cultivation was still at the early stage of foundation establishment, there were faint signs of breaking through to the middle stage of foundation establishment. He hurriedly asked when he saw the smile on his master Tan Xiu's face. There are many arrays in the mountain range, said Tan Xiu. But the naturally formed arrays are very powerful, but they contain less profound mysteries. But the array in front of us is different. It was set up by someone, and it covers a large part of the mountain range. Ordinary people can't enter this array at all, let alone detect the existence of the array. It seems that this Changbai mountain range is much bigger than what we know. Chen Zhizhong didn't understand Tan Xiu's words, but he didn't press the matter. The reason why he brought Tan Xiu to Changbai mountain range was because of the cave that he couldn't open. What should we do next, master? Let's bypass this area and go to the cave first, said Tan Xiu. The blood soul is a rare and precious ore, and the amount is quite a lot. I think there are even better things inside the cave. But you must pay attention to your safety since you're too weak. I'll pay attention to my safety, master, said Chen Zhizhong. Let's go over this mountain. The cave is in the snow-capped mountain behind it. I took some people to rush there a few days ago and found that it was snowing there, making the mountain road more difficult to walk. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and grabbed Chen Zhizhong's shoulder. His figure then soared and crossed the mountain in just half a minute. Behind him, Tang 28 and the 4 companions he had selected followed him at lightning speed. Amazing! Chen Zhizhong wasn't impressed by Tan Xiu's ability, but the strength of Tang 28's group of 5. He was already in his 40s or 50s, but his cultivation was only at the early stage of foundation establishment. Yet, he found that Tang 28 had broken through to the mid-stage of foundation establishment, and the other 4 children were also at the early stage of foundation establishment. Where is it? Asked Tan Xiu as he trod in the air, letting the wind and snow blow past him. Chen Zhizhong observed for a while and pointed to the snow-capped mountain in the distance, saying, "Do you see the valley over there, master?" The cave was located halfway up the mountain. It'll only take you half a minute to reach the cave's entrance given your flying speed. Tan Xiu released his spiritual sense continuously and flew in the direction pointed by Chen Zhizhong. Soon, he easily found the cave's entrance. An array. Tan Xiu's expression suddenly moved the moment his feet touched the ground. 2 thumb-sized blood soul stones were easily sucked over by his spiritual sense, and then he held them in his hand to fiddle with them. Arrays were what he was good at. However, he didn't rush to study the array in front of him and instead carefully looked around. Blood soul stones. It was an ore that could store the soul of a cultivator and was a very rare carrier. In addition, blood soul stones could also be used to refine and extract the blood essence inside, which was a very good material for refining elixirs. Similarly, it could also be used to refine artifacts. After a long while, Tan Xiu returned to the cave's entrance with a bit of disappointment. After searching for a while, he only found the 2 blood soul stones, and there were no other good things around. Let's study the array. Tan Xiu sat cross-legged outside the cave's entrance and carefully studied the array that sealed the cave's entrance. After a short period of study, he figured out the principle of the array and was confident that he could easily break it. Chapter 1002. In the past, Tan Xiu's attainments in array formations had almost reached the pinnacle. He could even completely envelop a certain starfield in the immortal world with an array formation and unleash tremendous power. Although his spiritual sense was less than 1/10,000th of his peak, it was still a piece of cake for him to crack the array formation in front of him. Let's go inside. Tan Xiu floated up and slashed forward with his finger sword. The air rippled like a net and shattered in the blink of an eye. The fine steel door was easily cut open like tofu and fell to the ground with a loud bang. An excited expression was revealed in Chen Zhizhong's eyes. His admiration for Tang Xiu was even more intense. Back then, he and his subordinates had racked their brains and spent a lot of effort, but they still couldn't enter the cave. However, his master had easily broken open the cave door. His strength was simply beyond his imagination. Strange. There's no spiritual energy inside. Tang 28, who followed closely behind Tan Xiu, walked along the cave for more than 10 meters and then looked incredulous. It must be noted that spiritual energy existed in every corner of the earth, even in some places where the concentration of spiritual energy was so thin that it was negligible. But here, the concentration of spiritual energy became lower the deeper they went. They couldn't even sense the existence of spiritual energy after walking for more than 10 meters. Tan Xiu pondered for a moment and then said, "Tang 28, the 5 of you wait outside the cave. Don't come in without my order. Also, stand guard outside. If anyone comes, you must block them for me." Understood. Tang 28's group of 5 stopped and turned to walk toward the entrance of the cave. Tan Xiu led Chen Zhizhong to go more than 10 meters inside and faintly heard a roar coming from the depths. The sound was not like a beast's roar but more like a human's howl. After walking for 100 meters, Tan Xiu and Chen Zhizhong's eyes lit up. Heavens! How's this possible? Chen Zhizhong exclaimed after seeing the scene in front of him. He couldn't believe his eyes because he never dreamed that the belly of the mountain turned out to be a world. The sky was blue and the clouds were white. The mountain peaks rose and fell one after another. Although there was no sun or moon, there were countless birds and beasts. Towering ancient trees could be seen everywhere. The blooming flowers were even more beautiful, making this place look like a fairyland. Tan Xiu said indifferently, "Don't make a fuss. This is just a world constructed inside the array." However, compared to the formation at the entrance of the cave, the formation here is much more interesting. Chen Zhizhong didn't understand array formation, so naturally, he couldn't see through the mystery here. He reached for his dagger and looked around vigilantly. Any movement would alert him. "Master, this place is so big. What should we do? Wandering around looking for treasures?" With a bit of regret, Tan Xiu said, "The area of this pocket world constructed by the array is indeed quite large. Unfortunately, even though there was thin oxygen here, the degree of spirit energy here was practically negligible. Even a golden core realm cultivator would find it difficult to absorb the pitifully scarce spirit energy of the heavens and the earth here. Therefore, I think, although there are many flowers and trees here, precious medicinal herbs are very difficult to find." Chen Zhizhong was confused. Why? If plants can grow here, why can't medicinal herbs grow here? Medicinal herbs are also a kind of plant. Medicinal herbs are indeed plants. Tan Xiu shook his head. But plants that can be called medicinal herbs need to absorb the essence of the earth and grow under the nourishment of the world's spirit energy. Only after a long period of accumulation can they have very strong medicinal properties. For example, if a wild ginseng grows here but it has no medicinal effect, do you think it can be regarded as a medicinal herb? Chen Zhizhong instantly understood Tan Xiu's meaning. He shook his head and forced a smile. Nope. The reason why ginseng is regarded as a treasure is because of the medicinal efficacy it contains. Without medicinal efficacy, it's no different from weeds and leaves. Therefore, I'm afraid there are no medicinal herbs in this pocket world, said Tan Xiu. If there are any good things here, I'm afraid it can only be ores. Chen Zhizhong hurriedly said, "I think there must be precious ores here, master. After all, there is a blood soul stone outside the cave entrance. I think there must be something better than the blood soul stone inside. Let's look for it and maybe we'll have an unexpected harvest." "Since we're already here, we'll naturally look for it," said Tan Xiu with a smile. The environment of this pocket world was simply picturesque, with birds and beasts everywhere among the mountains and rivers. However, in this paradise that was full of vitality, there was an extremely dangerous place hidden, and there were terrifying fierce beasts hidden. The roar he heard just now had already dissipated, but even Tan Xiu had no choice but to be cautious in this world without much spiritual energy. Consumption. This was the most fatal problem for cultivators in such an environment. Unless they carried a lot of medicinal pills, their strength would plummet once their true essence was consumed excessively, and it would be very difficult for them to survive in a crisis. Fortunately, there were a lot of medicinal pills in Tan Xiu's interspatial ring. Even if his demand was not high, Chen Zhizhong could still take them in case he needed them. I must go to Bangkok again after leaving this place to get more demon stones from the Dark Shaman clan. I can absorb and refine the demon stones I have now for a few years, but I'm afraid I'll be in danger if I'm trapped in this pocket world in the future. Being a cultivator is like rowing a boat against the current. If I don't move forward, I'll fall back. Replenishing the primal chaos force in my body is only one aspect. I also need to make a breakthrough. The price to pay for this breakthrough is to absorb the power of the stars and absorb all kinds of energy. Spiritual energy, on the other hand, is a supplementary energy that requires a lot of demonic power to make up for it. Half a day later. Tang Xiu and Chen Zhizhong had already penetrated deep into the pocket world, but neither of them was able to probe the size of this pocket world. Furthermore, the most disappointing thing for them was that they didn't encounter any danger, nor did they obtain any treasures. We can't keep searching like this, Zhizhong. Given the size of this pocket world, I'm afraid we won't be able to search the entire area even if we search for a few months. I'm afraid we'll have to focus on constructing this pocket world's array. Tan Xiu halted his pace and said with a pondering look in his eyes. Chen Zhizhong hesitated for a moment and said, I don't know anything about arrays, master, so you can study it slowly. I'll search the surroundings. Tan Xiu took out 2 jade bottles from his interspatial ring and gave them to Chen Zhizhong. Then, he nodded and said, the more beautiful the environment is, the more hidden dangers there are. Don't be fooled by the scenery here. You must always be on guard and immediately retreat if you encounter any danger. There are 20 medicinal pills in these 2 jade bottles that will be helpful to you. Suddenly, he seemed to recall something and took out the refined Tang sect token from his interspatial ring. He handed it to Chen Zhizhong and said, the Everlasting Feast Hall is now just a real restaurant and no longer a force. All the former core disciples of the Everlasting Feast Hall have now become members of the Tang sect. The Tang sect is a Taoist cultivation sect that I established. Take this Tang sect token as it can prove that you're a disciple of the Tang sect. Chen Zhizhong looked pleasantly surprised. He knew very well what it meant to be a Taoist cultivation sect. In ancient times, a sect was a whole, just like a big family. Now that his master, Tan Xiu, had established the Tang sect, he would be a cultivator with a sect and a foundation. After receiving the Tang sect token, Chen Zhizhong was about to put it away with a solemn expression when he saw Tan Xiu shake his head at him. What's wrong, master? Drip your blood on the Tang sect token. It will be integrated into your body and a token pattern will appear on your finger, Tan Xiu said. Strictly speaking, the Tang sect token was already a celestial artifact, but it only had 2 functions. One was to prove one's identity, and the other was to protect the owner. Once the owner was in a desperate situation, it could help them resist a fatal blow. Remember, unless you don't have enough time to activate it, you can only activate it at the most critical moment of life and death. Chen Zhizhong's expression turned serious and he nodded repeatedly. Then, he cut his finger with a dagger and dripped his blood on the Tang sect token. Suddenly, Chen Zhizhong found that his spiritual force had a strange connection with the token in his hand. Whoosh! The Tang sect token suddenly disappeared and a token pattern appeared on Chen Zhizhong's thumb. It looked like a tattoo, exactly like the Tang sect token. You need your mind to control the Tang sect token, Tan Xiu said. Go. Don't lose your way here and don't go too far. I can easily use the array to detect the treasures inside as long as I can comprehend the array used to construct this pocket world. Chen Zhizhong nodded and tried to release the Tang sect token, but then took it back. After experimenting several times, he walked toward the distance with a bit of excitement. Tan Xiu casually glanced at it and then walked to a flat bluestone not far away. After sitting cross-legged, he released his spiritual sense and quickly touched the invisible array. Interesting. After a short period of comprehension, Tan Xiu found that this array was very mysterious. Although he could understand most of the array's structure, he found a small part of it very novel. He had never thought about it in this aspect before. This discovery made him feel like he had just seen a prey, because he realized that the more knowledge he had about arrays, the more he felt that this array was broad and profound, with endless mysteries. In the deep valley, the spring water was emitting white smoke. A group of strange animals, resembling sheep and dogs, with sharp rhinoceros horns on their heads, were drinking around the spring water. Several owl-like animals with lion-sized bodies were squatting on the rocks, looking around. They didn't open their mouths, but strange cooing sounds kept ringing. What's that? Chen Zhizhong, who had just arrived here, suddenly staggered. Fortunately, he reacted quickly and reached out to hold a boulder several meters high, else he would have fallen to the ground. His expression was as though he had seen a ghost in broad daylight, full of shock. Chapter 1003. Chen Zhizhong was very courageous, but the scene in front of him was beyond his imagination. The moment he steadied himself, he instantly retreated dozens of meters. Only then did he hide behind another boulder that was a few meters tall. He took a few deep breaths. Headless humans. Armless humans. Legless humans. Humans with a hole of more than 10 centimeters in diameter on their chests. Chen Zhizhong would never show such a fearful expression if these humans were just corpses. But he was horrified to find that these people were definitely not dead, but all alive. That's right. All of them were alive. It was hard for him to imagine how someone could survive without a head. It was hard for him to imagine how these monster-like humans, who looked so miserable, still had signs of life. He. Interesting, really interesting. There are actually living creatures here. How many years has it been? 1,000 years? Or 10,000 years? I finally see, living, people from the outside. He. Among the hundreds of mutilated humans, a man who had lost his arms and had a bloody wound on his chest raised his head mechanically, his eyes looking at the direction where Chen Zhizhong was hiding. It's really interesting that a living person came here. Is he also a heretic who was exiled here? But why didn't he receive the punishment of flaying? Did he bribe the criminal officer? Or does he have some background? Who cares about his background and origin? The fact that he can come here unscathed proves that he's not a friend, but an enemy. Kill him when you're dealing with an enemy. Let's play with him first and test his strength. It's not too late to kill him after we've trampled him. Who's first? I'll do it. Me. Chen Zhizhong was dumbfounded as he looked at these people. No, they should be monsters. If he was given another chance, he would never want to come here and be targeted by this group of monsters. Who the hell are you people? Since he was discovered, Chen Zhizhong no longer hid his figure. He flashed out from behind the boulder and shouted in a deep voice. The legless man was a middle-aged man about 40 years old. He had a beard and looked extremely fierce. He floated out like a ghost and stopped a dozen meters away from Chen Zhizhong, laughing wildly. You don't know. You don't know who we are. When did the sacred pristine palace become so interesting? How could they imprison such a silly kid? Chen Zhizhong frowned and said, "What sacred pristine palace? I don't understand what you're talking about. Also, I wasn't locked in here by anyone. I followed my master here." Your master? The legless man blinked and suddenly burst into laughter. Did you hear that? He is not a heretic who was banished here, but followed his master into this prison. Absurd, this is too absurd. There are actually people in this world who are willing to come here. Did I hear it wrong? Or are you talking nonsense? Chen Zhizhong took a few steps back and vigilantly asked, "Who are you people?" The complexion of the legless man changed, and his fierce aura instantly skyrocketed, pressing down on Chen Zhizhong like a storm. However, when that enormous aura gushed out 4 to 5 meters away, it was blocked by a transparent energy shield. At the same time, 2 pitch-black chains appeared out of thin air, binding the legless man's neck and waist. Damn it! The legless man looked angry and roared a few times before he dejectedly retracted his aura. But his eyes were still fixed on Chen Zhizhong as he said in a deep voice, "We're the Diablo Precantator clan, the most powerful warriors of our clan. Damned traitors from the sacred pristine palace. My people helped you expand your territory, fought and killed for you, but after you informed the entire cultivation world, you betrayed us, killed our king, slaughtered our people, and imprisoned all of us loyal disciples who have sacrificed so much for you in this prison. Damn you, you bastard. Damn you, all of you deserve to die. Diablo Precantator clan. The sacred pristine palace." Chen Zhizhong was completely confused. He wasn't a member of the Dao cultivation world before, so he naturally didn't know much about it. However, he was sure of one thing at this moment. These people's mobility was restricted. They seemed to be unable to rush out of the energy shield and break free from the black chains. Therefore, they posed no threat to him. "Let's get out of here quickly." Chen Zhizhong pondered for a moment before he turned around and ran back the way he came. His speed was very fast as he constantly shuttled through the mountain forest. It took him more than 20 minutes to return to Tan Xiu. "Master." Tan Xiu opened his eyes and asked in surprise, "Didn't you go to search around? How come you're back so soon?" Chen Zhizhong gulped and hurriedly said, "I found some monsters in the valley more than 10 kilometers away, master. They said something about the Diablo Precantator clan and the sacred pristine palace. I couldn't figure it out, so I hurriedly came back." "That's right, I also noticed one thing. Those monsters are all prisoners, and they're imprisoned there. Diablo Precantator clan. Sacred pristine palace." An incredulous look appeared on Tan Xiu's face. He had heard of these two names, but not on Earth, but in the immortal world. In the past, there was the Diablo Precantator clan in the immortal world, as well as a super sect like the Sacred Pristine Palace. But according to the records, that was more than 100,000 years ago. "Take me there." Tan Xiu immediately got up and said in a deep voice. Quickly. Tan Xiu appeared in the valley. A shocked look appeared on his face when he saw the hundreds of monsters. He never dreamed that there would be members of the Diablo Precantator clan on Earth. It must be noted that the Diablo Precantator clan was purged by the Sacred Pristine Palace more than 100,000 years ago, a clan that was truly exterminated. It didn't take long for the Sacred Pristine Palace to experience an unforeseen event that eventually led to the sect's defeat and its destruction by its former enemies. "Someone's here again." The headless man floated over and appeared in front of the transparent energy shield. His voice sounded out of thin air. He pointed his arm at Tan Xiu and spoke again, "You're this ant's master. Did you come in by yourself? Or were you imprisoned by those bastards from the Sacred Pristine Palace?" Tan Xiu sized up these people. His eyes finally fell on the headless man and indifferently said, "My disciples said that you're from the Diablo Precantator clan. Is that true?" "That's right." The headless man's voice was getting louder and louder with a sonorous murderous intent. The legless man stared at Tan Xiu and asked, "Who are you? What sect are you from, and how did you enter this prison world? May I know your names, gentlemen?" asked Tan Xiu. "This lord is the Diablo Precantator clan's general, Carl Burying the Dragon," said the legless man proudly. "My enemies call me the barefooted demonic monster." "You haven't answered our question yet, brat." "The barefooted demonic monster, Carl Burying the Dragon?" Tan Xiu asked incredulously. "You're one of the 18 generals under the Diablo Precantator king, the barefooted demonic monster who slaughtered hundreds of millions of troops from the 36 immortal domains? You know us?" The legless man was surprised. "Who exactly are you?" Tan Xiu cupped his fists and said, "I'm Tan Xiu, a disciple of the Rosefinch holy sect more than 100,000 years after your Diablo Precantator clan was exterminated. My Rosefinch holy sect has been in the immortal world for millions of years, so I'm sure you've heard of my name." The faces of hundreds of Diablo Precantator clansmen greatly changed upon hearing this. They naturally had heard of the Rosefinch holy sect. Although the immortal domain they were in was far away from the Rosefinch Holy Sect's immortal domain, the reputation of the Rosefinch Holy Sect had shaken the entire immortal world. Tanxiu. You have a very special aura on you, and your soul is very strange. Have you died before? Are you the one who took over your body? The legless demonic monster looked at Tanxiu and asked. That's right. Tanxiu narrowed his eyes and nodded. Then how did you come in? Asked the legless demonic monster again. This is a prison world created by the sacred pristine palace to imprison us. Apart from the sacred pristine palace's people, there's no way for anyone else to enter. This is no longer the immortal world, but another world. Tanxiu shook his head. I don't know how this prison world is connected to Earth, but the sacred pristine palace you mentioned was destroyed hundreds of thousands of years ago. The remaining disciples of the sacred pristine palace were slaughtered by Gorfiend. Gorfiend. Ha ha ha, it turns out to be Gorfiend. Retribution. This is retribution. How could the sacred pristine palace resist the revenge of a powerful enemy without our Diablo Precantator clan? Gorfiend. Ha ha ha, this lord once killed hundreds of thousands of his clansmen. I never thought he would come back from the immortal sea of sin. Damn, they all deserve to die. It's a pity that this lord didn't rush out of here, else I could have chopped off their heads, dug out their hearts, and extinguished their souls with my own hands. I didn't expect the enemy to avenge us. Hundreds of Diablo Precantator clansmen looked ecstatic. But after the ecstasy, they suddenly quieted down. All of them closed their eyes and lay on the ground. Strange musical notes were emitted from their bodies as though they were holding a memorial service. Tanxiu quietly watched them until they all stood up again. Then, he slowly said, I don't know what happened between you and the sacred pristine palace, but what I want to ask is, what are your plans now that you know the enemy is dead? Plans? The hundreds of Diablo Precantator clansmen were confused. Their motivation to survive was to kill all the enemies of the sacred pristine palace. But now that all the enemies of the sacred pristine palace had been annihilated, they suddenly lost their spiritual pillar to continue living. Suddenly, since you haven't figured it out, then I'll ask another question, asked Tanxiu again. You should have been imprisoned here by the sacred pristine palace hundreds of thousands of years ago. It's impossible for you to live for so long given your abilities. I want to know how you managed to survive until now in this place with almost no heaven and earth spiritual chi. It's the Diablo Precantator forbidden spell, life and death nightmare, said Discus Diabolos slowly. The Diablo Precantator forbidden spell. Life and death nightmare? An incredulous look appeared on Tanxiu's face as he hurriedly said, is the legend true? Is there really such a terrifying forbidden spell? Chapter 1004. Chen Zhizhong quietly listened to the conversation between Tanxiu and the Diablo Precantator clan's people. He was shocked inwardly because he never dreamed that his master, Tanxiu, came from another world, a place that all humans yearned for, the legendary immortal world. At the same time, he was also shocked by the Diablo Precantator clan in front of him. They had been imprisoned here for more than 100,000 years. After more than 100,000 years, they were still alive. It was more mysterious and incredible than a myth. What's the Diablo Precantator forbidden curse, master? What's the life and death nightmare? Chen Zhizhong suppressed his shock and asked curiously. The Diablo Precantator forbidden curse is a terrifying curse of the Diablo Precantator clan, explained Tanxiu. It's called the life and death nightmare. Is this curse very powerful? Asked Chen Zhizhong curiously. Tanxiu squinted his eyes and glanced at the Diablo Precantator clan in front of him. He slowly said, that's just a legend. Legend has it that the Diablo Precantator clan is proficient in a very magical forbidden curse. This secret technique has no effect on others, but it has a magical effect on their own clansmen. Once the Diablo Precantator clan uses this forbidden curse on themselves, their lifespan will increase by tens of thousands of times. Every 10,000 years, the Diablo Precantator clan can only stay awake for 100 years and fall into a deep sleep for the rest of the time. It's also for this reason that they can live for a long time, much longer than ordinary immortals. With a gloomy expression and a murderous aura that seemed to condense into a tangible substance, Discalciate Diablo said, "You're right. The legend is true. But I don't know if you're lucky or unlucky to meet us in the awakening stage. The life and death nightmare is a forbidden curse of my Diablo Precantator clan. Although it can make our clansmen live for a long time, it's actually a different kind of death. In 10,000 years, we can only be awake for 100 years. Every time we wake up, the world will be different. What we once understood will also be different. However, before we can fully understand the new world, we will fall into a deep sleep again and wait for another 100 years after 10,000 years. It's a constant cycle. It's a kind of torture that ordinary people can hardly feel. If it weren't for the necessity, no one in my Diablo Precantator clan would be willing to use a forbidden spell like the life and death nightmare on themselves." Tan Xiu looked pitifully at the Diablo Precantator tribesman. How could he not be aware of this situation? Ascetic Diabolos had made it very clear that this was indeed pain and torture. Many Diablo Precantator tribesmen would rather die than seek eternal life in this cycle. Discus Diabolos gradually retracted his killing intent and looked at Tang Xiu, asking in a deep voice, "Disciple of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, are you willing to help us escape from here?" "To be honest, I really want to help you, but I can't do it now." Tan Xiu shook his head. "Although your current strength is probably not even a 10,000th of your peak, you should be able to sense that there is a huge problem with my body and soul. Right now, I'm too weak. Even if I wanted to help you, I wouldn't be able to. Unless I can recover to the perfected golden immortal realm, otherwise, I can't do it." Dismembered Diabolos pondered for a long time before he silently nodded and said with a bit of regret, "You're right. It's indeed very difficult for you to do it with your current strength. This damn Precantator array is too abstruse. Even some perfected golden immortals who don't know much about Precantator arrays would find it difficult to break it. Tens of millions of our surviving Diablo Precantator tribesmen were unable to break this place and escape from here, no matter how hard we tried." "You mean, tens of millions of your Diablo Precantator tribesmen were imprisoned here?" Tan Xiu frowned. "How come only? Freedom is the nature of my Diablo Precantator tribesmen, and killing is our instinct," said Dismembered Diabolos bitterly. "Losing our freedom is better than committing suicide. Ha ha ha, the weakest of these tens of millions of elite Diablo Precantator tribesmen is at the celestial immortal stage, and there are dozens of perfected golden immortals. Suicide is the most humiliating way to die, yet it has fallen on my clansmen's heads. Why are you still alive?" asked Tan Xiu. Dismembered Diabolos pointed to his chest and said in a deep voice, "The flame in the heart needs to burn fiercely. The blood of our enemies must be used to wash away our shame. Among the tens of millions of people, we were the unluckiest to be chosen as the flame of vengeance. We must survive for a long time and wait for the day when we can escape and burn all the traitors of the sacred pristine palace with the flame in our hearts. It's a pity that everyone in the sacred pristine palace was killed hundreds of thousands of years ago." Tan Xiu shook his head. "You've been struggling at death's door for so long, yet you still can't use their blood to wash away your shame. But fortunately, your enemies are dead and your hearts shackled by hatred can now be freed." Dismembered Diabolos slowly turned around and looked at the hundreds of his clansmen who were struggling at death's door. The anger on his face gradually disappeared and was replaced by deep despair. Suddenly, a smile that was uglier than crying climbed up his rough face and he laughed wildly. "Did you hear that, my clansmen? Our enemies are dead. All of them are dead. Haven't we been living for the destruction of the sacred pristine palace? Now that we've been waiting for the result, what are we still living for?" He roared wildly. He suddenly raised his hand and a 4-meter-long sharp saber suddenly appeared out of thin air. Hundreds of other Diablo Precantator clansmen also unleashed their innate natal weapons and raised them high in the air. Outside the array, Tan Xiu's expression drastically changed. Looking at the actions of hundreds of Diablo Precantator clansmen, he immediately shouted, "Legend has it that the Diablo Precantator clan knows how to repay favors. I brought you the news of the destruction of the sacred pristine palace and gave you a chance to free yourselves. Isn't this a great favor? If you kill yourselves now, do you want to leave with the debt you owe to others?" Hundreds of Diablo Precantator clansmen turned stiff. The Diablo Precantator clan loved to kill and enjoy freedom, but they were also a clan with few schemes. They could never be the leader of a force and could only be a vassal race of some force. Loyalty. It was the greatest advantage of their clan. Sincerity. It was one of their virtues. Tan Xiu's words made them temporarily cancel the idea of committing suicide. Hundreds of pairs of eyes stared at Tan Xiu, while Discus Diabolos asked in a deep voice, "Disciple of the Rosefinch Holy Sect, how do you want us to repay you?" Tan Xiu was silent for a moment. Then, he suddenly pointed to Qin Zhizhong next to him and said in a deep voice, "Rumor has it that your clan has a secret art that can give other races a Diablo Precantator body and bloodline to create the most perfect combat tools. In any case, you've already made up your mind to die, so it's better to fulfill my disciple's wish." Discus Diabolos shot a deep look at Qin Zhizhong and then turned his head to communicate with the hundreds of Diablo Precantator clansmen behind him. Then, he nodded and said, "He's the first one to discover us in more than 100,000 years. He's also a fated person of our clan. Although he's still very weak, you've done us a favor, so we naturally have to repay it. We'll agree to your request, but you must think about it clearly. If you want to obtain our inheritance, if you want to be forged into a perfect battle tool by us, you have to enter this formation. But once you come in, you'll never be able to get out again." Tan Xiu turned to look at Qin Zhizhong and said in a deep voice, "Zhizhong, our ancestors have an old saying that riches and honor can only be found in danger. What's in front of you now is a broad and open road. Hence, I want to ask you something. Do you dare to enter this array and accept the inheritance of the Diablo Precantator clan's seniors?" Qin Zhizhong's expression slightly changed. If what Discus Diabolos said was true, then would he really not be able to come out after entering? Would he be able to endure the torture of loneliness if he were to be imprisoned here for countless years? No. Qin Zhizhong's heart was suddenly shaken. He realized that his master, Tan Xiu, was an expert proficient in arrays. He might be able to break this array in front of him. For a moment, Qin Zhizhong was caught in a dilemma. If his master, Tan Xiu, couldn't break this array, would he be imprisoned forever? Wouldn't it be a great opportunity for him if he could break it? What should I do? With the passage of time, Qin Zhizhong finally made up his mind. He chose to believe in his master, Tan Xiu. Since he wanted to walk on the path of immortal cultivation, he had to play the game of life and death. If he won, he would be reborn and would surely achieve unparalleled achievements in the future. But if he lost, he could only blame his bad fate. "I'm willing, master." Qin Zhizhong nodded firmly with a firm expression. Tan Xiu nodded with satisfaction and laughed loudly. "You're worthy of being my good disciple. You're bound to have great achievements in the future given your wisdom. Go inside. As long as you can obtain the inheritance of the Diablo Precantator clan's seniors, I'll definitely become a perfected golden immortal in the future and save you." "Understood." Qin Zhizhong replied and strode toward the hundreds of Diablo Precantator clansmen. The transparent energy shield didn't stop his footsteps, allowing him to easily enter the array and come before Discus Diabolos. With an appreciative look on his face, Discus Diabolos praised, "What my Diablo Precantator clan admires the most are heroes and tough men. You're very good. You're a real tough man." Qin Zhizhong took a deep breath and turned to look at Tan Xiu. Then, he cupped his fists and said, "If so, then I'll have to trouble you all." Discus Diabolos looked at Tan Xiu and said in a deep voice, "It's better to die than to sink into oblivion. I hope you're not deceiving us. I hope what you said is true and that everyone in the sacred pristine palace has been annihilated." "You're right to trust me," Tan Xiu said seriously. Discus Diabolos nodded and suddenly let out a sharp howl. Suddenly, hundreds of Diablo Precantator clansmen soared into the air. They rose tens of meters high in the air and constantly changed their positions. Soon, a millstone-like array appeared. Chapter 1005. Scarlet blood constantly drifted from the bodies of hundreds of Diablo Precantator clansmen, and their bodies gradually cracked like the dry earth. The blood drifted and rushed into the millstone-shaped formation. Gradually, the whole sky was dyed red with blood. Forbidden technique. The most terrifying and incredible technique of the Diablo Precantator clan was displayed by hundreds of them at this moment. As a column of blood extended from the millstone-shaped formation, it directly enveloped Chen Zhizhong below. Countless ancient runes poured into Chen Zhizhong's body like a stream of water. Ah! Roar! Chen Zhizhong, who was enveloped by the column of blood, howled in pain. At first, his voice was very sharp, but later, because of the heart-wrenching pain, he roared like a wild beast. Standing outside the formation, Tan Xiu looked at Chen Zhizhong's face, which had twisted in pain, with a smile at the corner of his mouth. The process of obtaining the inheritance was definitely very painful, but the benefits obtained after the pain were absolutely great. It wasn't that he hadn't considered obtaining the inheritance of the Diablo Precantator clan, but he knew that once he chose to obtain it, he would no longer be able to practice the heavenly art of cosmic genesis. If that happened, the loss would definitely outweigh the gain. After all, the heavenly art of cosmic genesis would definitely be countless times stronger than the inheritance of the Diablo Precantator clan once it was practiced to the great accomplishment realm. Immediately, Tan Xiu sat cross-legged and released his divine sense again, quickly integrating it into the formation of the small world. What he needed to do now was to go all out to understand the formation here. If it was before, even if he didn't understand the formation here, he could still escape with Chen Zhizhong unscathed. But now, the situation was completely different. He had to thoroughly understand all the formations here in order to break the formation in front of him and rescue Chen Zhizhong from inside. Otherwise, even if he could leave, Chen Zhizhong was bound to be trapped in there forever. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, 6 days had passed. The moment Tan Xiu opened his eyes, he saw the column of blood that enveloped Chen Zhizhong gradually dissipate between heaven and earth. On Chen Zhizhong's naked body, countless ancient runes surged like a tide. Tan Xiu could even clearly see countless runes in Chen Zhizhong's muscles, bones, and internal organs. It's done. Tan Xiu's eyes revealed a look of anticipation, but when he shifted his gaze to the sky tens of meters high, his eyes revealed a hint of sadness. Hundreds of Diablo Precantator clansmen were suspended in the air like dried corpses. They were hanging on to their last breaths, waiting for the inheritance to end. At this moment, the discus devil monster suddenly opened his eyes. The only color in his gray eyes was Chen Zhizhong's body. He knew that the Diablo Precantator clan had not completely disappeared from this world. Chen Zhizhong, who had received their inheritance and transformation, was the seed of the Diablo Precantator clan. His bloodline contained the blood of the Diablo Precantator tribe, and his soul also bore the mark of the Diablo Precantator tribe. As long as he didn't die, the Diablo Precantator clan could take root and sprout, and a brand new Diablo Precantator clan would emerge. Disciple of the Rosefinch Holy Sect, Honorable Tan Xiu, we have fulfilled our promise and repaid your kindness. We're about to disappear from this world. I hope you can rescue the seed of our Diablo Precantator clan and let him continue the bloodline of our clan after 10,000 years, said the discus devil monster slowly. Tan Xiu raised his arm, put his fist on his left chest, and said in a deep voice, I, Tan Xiu, assure you that I'll definitely rescue my disciple and make him have unlimited achievements. The bloodline and soul of your Diablo Precantator clan will return to the immortal world countless years later and restore your former glory. Thank you. The saber reappeared in front of the discus devil monster, while the innate natal weapons of the hundreds of Diablo Precantator clansmen also appeared. Return! Roared the discus devil monster. Return! 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 Hundreds of Diablo Precantator clansmen also roared. As the saber swept across their bodies, a ball of flame bloomed from their bodies. Finally, the raging flames began to burn and their bodies were burned to ashes in the raging fire. Death. It was a very pure death. It wasn't an ordinary death, but a true soul dissipation. Chen Zhizhong's eyes slowly opened and 2 lines of tears flowed down his cheeks, dripping on his bronze chest and falling on the heavy ground under his feet. 3 bows and 9 kowtows. It was the human clan's grand ceremony of worship. After finishing all this, Chen Zhizhong walked to Tan Xiu with a sorrowful look in his eyes. He stopped in front of the transparent energy shield and respectfully kowtowed 3 times to Tan Xiu. Then, he got up and asked, "Why, master?" Tan Xiu knew what Chen Zhizhong was referring to. With a complicated expression in his eyes, he shook his head and said, "I'm sure I can break this array and tear this cage for the Diablo Precantator clansmen. I can let them leave this pocket world and go to the wonderful world outside." "Why?" asked Chen Zhizhong again. "You don't understand the Diablo Precantator clan." Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "You don't understand the Diablo Precantator clansmen who cast the life and death nightmare on themselves. It's a kind of sorrow and never-ending pain for them to live. Death is the best ending for them and also the ultimate relief. There's hope in the future as long as they're alive," said Chen Zhizhong. "Who can be sure that the forbidden spell they cast on themselves won't be able to be broken in the future? You're omnipotent in my heart. You'll definitely find a way in the future. Don't talk about the future. Tell me about the present," said Tan Xiu in a deep voice. "If I release them now and take them out of this pocket world to the outside earth, can they control themselves? Tell me, with the bloodthirsty nature of the Diablo Precantator clan, can they control themselves? Can the humans on earth stop these Diablo Precantator clansmen who are at least at the golden immortal stage? If they start a massacre, the outside world will be littered with corpses and rivers of blood. Listen, I'm talking about the best ending. The worst ending is that they can easily blow up Earth, leading to the destruction of all humans on Earth. They can tear open the space barrier with their own strength and go to another world to survive. They can even find the passage back to the immortal world. But can you bear the destruction of Earth and the extinction of humanity? Can you just watch your family and clansmen die in the hands of the Diablo Precantator clansmen?" Tan Xiu's words were sonorous and forceful. Chen Zhizhong was rendered speechless by Tan Xiu's words. He just blamed Tan Xiu for deceiving hundreds of Diablo Precantator clansmen, but now he understood. It wasn't that his master didn't want to save them, but he couldn't bear the terrible situation caused by releasing these Diablo Precantator clansmen. He loosened his clenched fists and looked guilty. He knelt in front of Tan Xiu again. He recalled his master's last request to the Diablo Precantator clan and the benefits he obtained. The guilt he felt toward Tan Xiu grew stronger and his feelings toward Tan Xiu increased crazily. "I'm sorry, master." Tan Xiu's expression eased as he shook his head and said, "You don't need to apologize to me. We're master and disciple. There are only 2 kinds of people in the cruel immortal world. The first kind is blood relatives, and the second kind is a master and disciple who are like father and son. You're my disciple, so you're naturally the closest person to me. Even if you make some mistakes, I won't blame you as long as it's not something I can't make up for." Master and disciple were like father and son. This sentence was deeply engraved in Chen Zhizhong's heart and soul. "All right, get up," Tan Xiu said. "By the way, tell me what level you've reached through the inheritance of the Diablo Precantator clan. How many benefits did you get?" Chen Zhizhong got up and clenched his fists again. "I don't know how strong I am now, master. But I'm much stronger than before. I have a feeling that even if there's a small mountain in front of me right now, I can still smash it with one punch." Tan Xiu nodded in satisfaction and asked, "What else?" "Hundreds of predecessors of the Diablo Precantator clan passed on all their lifelong knowledge to me," said Chen Zhizhong. "I got a lot of knowledge from the Diablo Precantator clan, including witchcraft, secret arts, and forbidden spells. Strictly speaking, I'm actually a member of the Diablo Precantator tribe now. Very well. Tan Xiao nodded and said, you should have heard the promise I made to the seniors of the Diablo Precantator clan very clearly. I hope you can restore the glory of the Diablo Precantator clan in the future and let all the races, be they humans, immortals, demons, witches, ghosts, demons, spirits, and gods, know that the Diablo Precantator clan was not completely extinct hundreds of thousands of years ago. Live well for me. I hope that my apprentice can grow up with me, and have limitless achievements. Become a supreme existence in the immortal world, and maybe even have the chance to fight our way into the higher dimension, the God world. Chen Zhizhong's heart surged as he shouted, Master, I'll follow in your footsteps and kill my way to the immortal world and the divine world. I, Chen Zhizhong, will always be your closest disciple. Well done. Tan Xiao burst into laughter. I used to be a supreme in the immortal world, and I'll become a supreme in the divine world in the future. And my apprentice can't be any worse than me. What? Chen Zhizhong's expression suddenly froze and incredulity filled his eyes. He looked at Tan Xiao and asked with a trembling voice, Mas. Master, what did you just say? You said you used to be a supreme in the immortal world? Now that you've obtained the inheritance of the Diablo Precantator clan, I naturally don't need to hide it from you anymore. Tan Xiao nodded. I was indeed a supreme in the immortal world, a peerless powerhouse who stood above the hundreds of millions of races in the immortal world. But because of the sneak attack by my enemies, I had to start all over again. Remember, you must never tell anyone about this except for you, not even the people you think are the closest to you. Else, once the news that I'm still alive is known by my supreme enemies in the immortal world, I'm afraid we'll all die. Chapter 1006. A solemn look appeared on Chen Zhizhong's face. He, who had obtained the inheritance, already knew a lot of information. His master was once a supreme in the immortal world, yet he was still ambushed by the enemy. Although he didn't know how his master survived, it was probably a great disaster for him to end up like this. Therefore, his master's enemies were very powerful, far from what he could contend with. Therefore, it was of utmost importance to block the news. Don't worry, master, said Chen Zhizhong. I'll never divulge this matter to anyone, not even my family. It's good that you remember that. Tan Xiao nodded. Let's not waste any more time here. I've already comprehended most of this array. I'll be able to crack it in 2 days at most. We'll leave then. You consolidate your current realm while I'm comprehending this array. Understood. After saluting, Chen Zhizhong turned around and walked to a bluestone not far away. He then sat cross-legged to consolidate his cultivation. Tan Xiao didn't want to waste time, so he devoted all his attention to comprehending the array. If it were the Diablo Precantator clan's array, it would take him some effort to crack it. After all, he didn't know much about the Diablo Precantator clan's array. But the principle of the sacred pristine palace's array was similar to what he knew. It was a pity that he had to start from scratch and his cultivation was too low. Else, he would be able to comprehend the array in front of him in a flash and easily crack it with a lift of his hand. 2 days passed by quickly. When Tan Xiao mastered the array of the entire pocket world, he had already understood all the mysteries of the array within the array in front of him. The array was interconnected and profound. Fortunately for Tan Xiao, he directly comprehended the array of the entire pocket world. If he were to directly comprehend the mysteries of the array in front of him, it was likely that he wouldn't be able to fully comprehend it in a short time. The design of the array, as well as several novel outlines, were still a bit beneficial to Tan Xiao. Break! As Tan Xiao pointed his finger, the transparent energy shield covering the valley suddenly rippled and a crack suddenly appeared in the blink of an eye. Master! Chen Zhizhong had already woken up from his cultivation the moment Tan Xiao broke the formation. As the crack widened, he dashed in front of Tan Xiao at lightning speed. Due to the surge in his cultivation, he was still unable to control this power. If Tan Xiu had not dodged it, he would have crashed into Tan Xiu's arms. Tan Xiu smiled and said, "Looks like you still need some time if you want to stabilize your realm and completely control the power you have now. When you go back, hand over your family business to your son to take care of. Even if he didn't want to, he could go back to Star City to take over. As for you, you need to go into secluded cultivation in your clan grounds. Cultivating there will allow you to achieve twice the results with half the effort." Chen Zhizhong quickly asked, "Master, where is the clan?" "Nine Dragons Island," answered Tan Xiu with a smile. Chen Zhizhong immediately understood. When Tan Xiu bought Nine Dragons Island, he knew that Tan Xiu didn't have enough money, so he took out most of the money. Further, he also knew that Tan Xiu rebuilt Nine Dragons Island, but he didn't expect that his master, Tan Xiu, would choose to establish the Tang sect there. "I'll arrange it immediately after I get back, master." Tan Xiu nodded and instantly dashed into the array. Under Chen Zhizhong's confused eyes, his figure flickered and formed a small hurricane as Tan Xiu's items kept falling into his hands and were then stored into his interspatial ring. After a long while, Tan Xiu came out of the array and threw a war blade to Chen Zhizhong. Then, he lightly smiled and said, "This is the war blade of Discus Diabolos." Discus Diabolos used to have a prominent status and commanded countless Diablo Precantator clans' powerhouses. His war blade is also a good immortal Precantator artifact. You should refine this war blade and use it as your weapon before you break through to the immortal stage. When you're strong enough in the future, you can smelt this war blade and refine it into an immortal artifact that truly belongs to you. Understood, replied Chen Zhizhong with a satisfied expression. Although a large number of items left by the Diablo Precantator clan were all taken away by his master, Tan Xiu, he was well aware that he was the one who got the most benefits. Just the inheritance of the Diablo Precantator clan and the transformation of his body were a once-in-a-lifetime great opportunity for him. Weapons. They were just worldly possessions. However, Chen Zhizhong didn't know how many treasures were contained in the weapons and interspatial rings of the Diablo Precantator clan that Tan Xiu collected in the immortal world. He also didn't know how valuable these things were. It must be noted that the number of Diablo Precantator clan's clansmen who left their interspatial rings and weapons were not only in the hundreds. There were also more than 12 million members of the Diablo Precantator clan. Tan Xiu's method of collecting them was very fast. It was incredibly fast, but it still took him a long time to collect everything. Fortunately, he had directly refined an interspatial ring of the Diablo Precantator clan, else he wouldn't have been able to store so many things in his interspatial ring. Chen Zhizhong had never been to the immortal world and didn't know much about immortal Precantator artifacts. Otherwise, he would have realized that the value of the immortal Precantator artifacts Tan Xiu took away was enough for him to buy a large starfield in the immortal world and recruit millions of immortals to work for him. Let's go. Tan Xiu glanced at his left index finger with satisfaction and said with a smile. "We haven't explored this pocket world yet, master," said Chen Zhizhong hurriedly. "If there are a lot of ores in here, we have to take them away." Tan Xiu chuckled and said, "I have the entire pocket world's array in my control, so I can easily perceive the situation in this pocket world. This place is actually a prison, and there are no other precious ores here except for the 36 immortal stones. I'll directly take the immortal stones after we leave, and this pocket world will no longer exist." Chen Zhizhong suddenly understood and smilingly said, "I also want to learn arrays from you in the future, master." "Is there no array knowledge in the inheritance of the hundreds of Diablo Precantator clan's powerhouses?" asked Tan Xiu. "Yes, but those are all Precantator arrays, and they're not very powerful." Chen Zhizhong forced a smile. "They can't be compared to the truly powerful immortal arrays in the immortal world." "You're right." Tan Xiu smiled and said, "The Diablo Precantator clan is very powerful, and what they pursue more is their own strength, as well as the quality of their weapons. They don't pay much attention to auxiliary feng shui arrays. I'll teach it to you later if you want to learn it." "That's right, I forgot something. Unleash your strongest attack." Let me see what realm you've reached now. Chen Zhizhong replied and flashed to the distance. When he was a kilometer away, he fiercely punched the hilltop in front of him. One blow. The tens of meters high hilltop was directly blasted away. Its power was comparable to that of a nascent soul stage powerhouse. Immediately after, he used the saber and fiercely slashed the hilltop. Suddenly, 100-meter deep and 10-meter wide hole was blasted out by him. What do you think of my current strength, master? With a bit of excitement, Chen Zhizhong hurriedly asked after returning to Tan Xiu. Not bad. Tan Xiu nodded and said, your power is comparable to that of a late-stage nascent soul stage powerhouse. If it's just based on cultivation, I can't even compare to you. But I'm afraid I can easily kill you in a fight. There are several reasons. First, you can't fully control your own power. Second, you're really lacking in combat experience, especially when it comes to fights between experts. Third, it's very difficult for a nascent soul stage powerhouse to defeat me. A worshipful look appeared in Chen Zhizhong's eyes as he said, your strength is progressing too fast, master. I still remember when we first met, your strength was probably not as strong as mine before I received the inheritance. But it's only been a year and a half, yet you're able to defeat a nascent soul stage powerhouse. That's really amazing. I think it won't take you a few years to cross the tribulation and become an immortal, no? Tan Xiu couldn't help but laugh. How can it be so easy to cross the tribulation and become an immortal? It's a matter of course that the cultivation speed is fast in the early stage, but it will be more difficult later on. It takes a lot of time to break through each level. My luck is good and I've had a lot of fortuitous encounters, so I can be comparable to a nascent soul stage powerhouse in just a year and a half. But it's hard to say in the future. Chen Zhizhong suddenly understood. He didn't know much about cultivation, and the inheritance of the Diablo Precantator tribe was only about the situation of the Diablo Precantator tribe and their cultivation situation. There was no shallow attempt at the immortal world. However, even if Tan Xiu said so, his heart was still full of worship. After all, he knew how powerful the supremes in the immortal world were. Even during the heyday of the Diablo Precantator clan, no one seemed to have broken through to the supremacy stage. Even the previous kings of the Diablo Precantator clan were only at the perfected golden immortal stage. Soon after, Tan Xiu and Chen Zhizhong appeared at the exit of the cave passage and looked back at the pocket world in front of them. Tan Xiu's eyes didn't have the slightest fluctuation. After ordering Chen Zhizhong to wait for him outside, he immediately used his means to break the entire array. Immortal stones, come! Along with his shout, 36 immortal stones flew in front of him and were directly put into his interspatial ring. These immortal stones were of little use to him, but they were the best treasures for Gu Yan, and Ji Qimei. They were now on Earth, and there was no immortal qi on Earth at all. Whether it was to restore their strength or heal their injuries, the speed would be very slow. The earth quaked and the mountains shook. Tan Xiu watched as the pocket world in front of him gradually became illusory. He no longer stayed here and seemed to have turned into a bolt of lightning as he dashed out of the cave. Whoosh! Less than a minute after Tan Xiu's figure appeared outside the cave, the whole mountain directly collapsed along with the destruction of the pocket world. Chapter 1007. Tan Xiu took Chen Zhizhong, Tang 28's group of 5 and soared into the air. Standing hundreds of meters in the air, he looked at the collapsed mountain peak and sighed inwardly. The Diablo Precantator clan was truly pitiful. The sacred pristine palace was truly hateful. The feud between the two sides from hundreds of thousands of years ago had completely come to an end along with the destruction of the pocket world and the collapse of this mountain peak. At present, there was only one big puzzle in Tan Xiu's mind. What kind of existence was Earth? Why were there so many strange spaces connected to the Earth? However, this puzzle had been in his mind for a long time, but he also knew that it would be very difficult for him to figure it out in a short time. Therefore, he no longer thought about it and quickly left Changbai Mountain with Qin Zhizhong, Tang 28, and the others. In addition, he separated from Qin Zhizhong halfway through the journey. Take care, Master. I'll be waiting for you in Star City. Qin Zhizhong was somewhat reluctant before parting. After the experience, he had developed deep feelings for Tan Xiu and regarded Tan Xiu as his master. I won't be staying in the imperial capital for a long time, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Hurry up and solve your business issues. I'll take you to Nine Dragons Island when I go back. Understood. Qin Zhizhong replied and quickly left. At the imperial capital. It was the first time for Tang 28's group of 5 to come here. They all knew that the imperial capital was the capital of China and one of the most prosperous metropolises in the country. Therefore, even though they were much more mature than their peers, they were still a bit curious. Where are we going, Sect Master? Asked Tang 28 curiously after coming out of the airport with Tan Xiu. Don't ask this kind of question again in the future, said Tan Xiu. You're to follow me wherever I go. Remember, you'll be my shadow in the future, and the 4 of you will be Tang 28's shadows. You must learn to be silent and execute my orders if you want to follow me. Tang 28's group of 5 hurriedly nodded and dared not speak again. Tan Xiu came to the capital this time for Tang Guisheng's 80th birthday. If he was still abroad, it would have been fine if he couldn't make it back in time. Since he was already back in the country and it was on the way, he decided to stay in the capital for a while to celebrate with the old master. After getting on the taxi, Tan Xiu told the driver the address of the Tang family's residence. A strange expression appeared on the driver's face as he said, "Little brother, you're not from the imperial capital, are you?" In the past few days, martial law had been imposed over there. Even if I send you there, I won't be able to reach the address you gave me. We can only park nearby. Tan Xiu asked in surprise, why is there a martial law? The taxi driver said mysteriously, "Little brother, you are an outsider. I'm afraid you don't know. Tomorrow was Elder Tang's 80th birthday. The Tang family has always been very low-key in the past, but it's different this time. The Tang family is getting more and more powerful. It just so happens that the Tang family has something to do with the 80th birthday of their old master, so the Tang family is preparing to hold a big celebration. Several streets in the vicinity are under martial law to avoid any troublemakers. It's fine during the day, but after 10 p.m., the surrounding roads will be blocked and all vehicles are prohibited from approaching. This Tang family seems to be very famous." Tan Xiu nodded. The taxi driver gave Tan Xiu a "don't talk nonsense if you don't know" look. After starting the car, he said while driving, "Little brother, who in the capital doesn't know about the Tang family? Even in China, anyone with some ability knows about Tan Xiu's existence. Elder Tang used to be a senior statesman of our country, a real big shot, and a former great general. Also, haven't you heard that the Tang family's archenemy, the Yao family, fell inexplicably last year? The current Tang family may not be the first or second in the capital, but they're definitely in the top 3. So powerful?" asked Tan Xiu with a faint smile. The taxi driver didn't pay attention to Tan Xiu's expression. He held the steering wheel and looked at the road ahead. He nodded and said, "Of course they're powerful. It's a pity that I didn't reincarnate into this family. Otherwise, I would be able to live like an emperor if I were a member of the Tang family. You don't know, but the status of the Tang family's members in the capital is simply ridiculously high. Some time ago, a young master of the Tang family called Tang Wei smashed the famous Paradise Charm Club in the capital. The scene was very big. What was the result? Nothing happened to young Master Tang Wei, but the Paradise Charm Club's owner, as well as those silk pants young masters who offended young Master Tang Wei, bowed and apologized. I heard that they even compensated young Master Tang Wei with a lot of money." Tang Wei. Tan Xiu was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. He didn't expect that Tang Wei would cause such a big mess. Even if he got the upper hand in that matter, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to avoid being cleaned up after he returned home. It was because the elders of the Tang family had issued a death order that the Tang family's juniors must never be like those silk pants young masters who caused trouble outside. I'm afraid this guy hasn't been having a good time recently. Tang Xiu thought with a gloating expression. Half an hour later. When the taxi drove in the downtown area and just got off from an overpass, the road ahead was congested. Why is Qingfeng Road blocked again? Is there a traffic accident ahead? The taxi driver asked through the walkie-talkie and quickly got a reply. It's a traffic accident. Moreover, it's like a movie with several cars chasing and killing each other. It seems that more than a dozen people have died. It's been a long time since such a big mess has appeared in the capital. Brother, you're very unlucky. If you're stuck on Qingfeng Road, you better pray for your luck. I'm afraid that it won't be possible to clear the road for a few hours. Who's so bold? Asked the taxi driver hurriedly. They actually dare to cause such a big commotion in the capital. And so many people have died. Aren't they afraid of suffering a big misfortune under the feet of the emperor? I don't know about the specifics. All right. As the call ended, the taxi driver looked at Tan Xiu in the front seat and forced a smile. I'm afraid we'll be stuck here for a long time, little brother. It's impossible for us to turn around now. You can get off now and take the subway if you're in a hurry. Tan Xiu pondered for a moment. Then, he took out 200 yuan from his pocket and handed it to the taxi driver, saying, Let's get off here, master. Please take the money and keep the change. The taxi driver didn't expect that Tan Xiu would be so generous and hurriedly said, I don't need so much, little brother. I don't need even one. Tan Xiu pushed the door open and waved his hand with a smile. He then led Tang 28's group of 5 to the roadside and walked forward along the road. He could clearly hear the conversation between the taxi driver and the others through the walkie-talkie. He was very curious about who was so bold to cause such a big commotion in the downtown area. 10 minutes later. Tan Xiu and the others appeared near the scene of the accident. It was a spacious intersection, but more than a dozen cars had crashed into each other, creating a mess on the ground. A large number of rescue workers were treating the injured and lifting the corpses from the vehicles, causing Tan Xiu to furrow his brows. What happened, big brother? Asked Tan Xiu as he approached a middle-aged man who kept sighing and handed him a cigarette. What a sin. The middle-aged man forced a smile. I don't know how some men offended Second Fan. That fella brought a large number of people and drove more than a dozen cars to chase them. As a result, this series of car accidents happened. Sigh, it seems like 3 of the men died, and the last one ran away with injuries. Second brother Fan actually didn't let him go. He brought a large group of people and chased after them. He didn't even say to save the people who got involved in the accident first. Who's Second Fan? Asked Tan Xiu with a frown. The middle-aged man glanced at Tan Xiu and asked, Little brother, you don't sound like a local from your accent, do you? You don't even know who Second Fan is? I really don't know. Tan Xiu shook his head. I'm from Star City and just arrived in the imperial capital today. No wonder. The middle-aged man nodded. Second Fan is the son of the Fan family's patriarch in the imperial capital. Although no one from the Fan family is involved in politics, it's a very famous and wealthy family. Do you know the Sky Pigeon Group, one of the top 500 companies in the world? That's the Fan family's company. The Fan family's reputation in the imperial capital has never been good. Now that Second Fan has stirred up such a big mess, I'm afraid their reputation has become even worse. Alas, if I had such a good-for-nothing son like Second Fan, I would have broken his legs and chained him at home with an iron chain, so that he wouldn't go out and court disasters and troubles. Tan Xiu nodded and curiously asked, Then, where are they going now? How would I know? A large group of people chased after them, while one person ran away. God knows where they are now. You don't even know which direction they went? Asked Tan Xiu. The middle-aged man pointed to the northeast and said, I know. Over there. But don't think about joining in the fun at this time, little brother. It won't be fun if the god of misfortune bumps into you and gets you involved. Young man. Don't be so curious. Thank you, big brother. Tan Xiu said with a smile. Immediately after, Tan Xiu took Tang 28's group of 5 and quickly rushed to the northeast. He wouldn't have cared if he didn't bump into them. But now that he encountered this matter, he wanted to figure out what was going on. He had heard of the Fan family, but he didn't have any dealings with them. However, the one who had dealings with this family was a friend of his, Qin Xiaoyang. Tan Xiu heard from Qin Xiaoyang that the Fan family's eldest brother was his sworn brother. He also planned to introduce him to Tan Xiu when he had the time. The most important thing was that some of the Fan family's businesses were in a cooperative relationship with the Qin family. Once something happened to the Fan family, the Qin family's influence would be greatly affected. Hello, Xiaoyang. Did you hear about the big mess the Fan family's second Fan family made? Tan Xiu dialed Qin Xiaoyang's number on the way to the northeast. I heard about it. I got the news 10 minutes ago, said Qin Xiaoyang hurriedly. This damned second brother Fan was simply too audacious. He caused a big trouble this time, and I'm afraid the whole Fan family will be dragged into it. I'm at home now, talking to my father about the business with the Fan family. Alas, I'm afraid our family will also suffer some losses. Chapter 1008. Holding the phone, Tan Xiu's eyes were full of sympathy. The chase and killing on the streets of the imperial capital was bound to attract the attention of countless people. Most importantly, this was just the beginning. It was likely that there would be more horrifying killings in the imperial capital in the future. As a friend, I'll give you a piece of advice. Immediately stop all business dealings with the Fan family. You must make a clean break even if you suffer huge losses. After saying that, Tan Xiu immediately hung up. As for what Qin Xiaoyang and his father decided, it had nothing to do with him. Corpse aura. This was the aura he sensed at the murder scene. The person who left this corpse aura was likely to be in cahoots with the second Fan family. If that was the case, then the Fan family would face imminent disaster. Anyone who had a deep relationship with the Fan family would be implicated. Imperial Capital, Dragon Village Villa Complex. The King Villa was the most luxurious villa in the entire Dragon Village Villa Complex. It had a European style and had 4 floors with luxurious interior decoration. Qin Xiaoyang hung up the phone in a daze inside the spacious study room. In front of him, a middle-aged man and another young man looked at him with dissatisfaction. It was Qin Xiefeng. The big boss of the Qin group had a net worth of at least 50 billion yuan. He could be regarded as a top super-rich even in the entire Huaxia. He was a thin man with a wise and far-sighted look in his eyes. Although he was dissatisfied with his son answering the phone at this time, he still lit a Cuban cigar, took a few deep puffs and said, Xiaoji is a government official and usually doesn't care about business. But what about Xiaoyang? Tell me, what should we do now? Qin Xiaoyang raised his head and said in a deep voice, stop all business dealings with the Fan family and draw a clear line with them. We'll no longer have any connection with them in the future. Bam, nonsense. Qin Xiefeng angrily shouted. I thought you've made great progress in these years, but I didn't expect you to be so stupid in this matter. Do you know that our Qin family and the Fan family have invested at least 10 billion yuan in our business dealings? That's 10 billion. Do you think we'll stop it just because you say so? Don't you know how heavy the loss will be for our family? Qin Xiaoji frowned and then said, Xiaoyang, we've invested tens of billions of yuan in this cooperation project. Stopping all of them will make us suffer heavy losses. Even the board of directors of the group will have a hard time approving it. Unless Dad has the final say, we need to come up with a reason that can convince those sensible people. Qin Xiaoyang raised the mobile phone in his hand and bitterly said, Dad, big brother, do you know who called me just now? Who? Qin Xiaoji asked curiously. Qin Xiefeng also frowned as a puzzled look flashed across his eyes. It's Tan Xiu, said Qin Shaoyang. Qin Xiefeng was confused and asked, Tang Xiu? Which Tan Xiu? I. His words came to an abrupt halt as a handsome face appeared in his mind. His heartbeat sped up several beats as he asked in a deep voice, the Tan Xiu you mentioned, is he the one from the Tang family in the imperial capital? The owner of the magnificent Tang Corporation? The famous little divine doctor of Huaxia? Qin Shaoyang forced a smile and said, yeah, it's him. My answer just now is actually his words. Qin Xiefeng's expression turned solemn as he said in a deep voice, Shaoyang, tell me what Tan Xiu just said. After repeating Tan Xiu's words, Qin Shaoyang finally said, Dad, I have some understanding of Tan Xiu. We're partners and friends. He may be 21 or 22 years old this year, but he has an extremely mature and steady character. Every remark he makes is carefully thought out. He just called me all of a sudden, so he should know that our Qin family and the Fan family have a deep cooperative relationship. That's why he revealed some information to me. Qin Xiefeng got up from his chair and smoked a cigar as he paced back and forth in his study. A bit of hesitation could be seen on his resolute face. From Tan Xiu's call just now, he faintly realized that the Fan family was about to encounter a big problem. Once something big happened to the Fan family, the cooperation between the Qin family and the Fan family was bound to be greatly affected. It would be very troublesome if the Qin family was involved in some matters. But it was tens of billions of investment. Even if he immediately issued an order to stop the cooperation and try to recover some losses as much as possible, the final loss was likely to reach 5 billion. What should he do? Qin Xiefeng stopped by the window and looked at the scenery outside. Then, he suddenly asked, can I talk to Tan Xiu personally? It'll be very difficult, Dad. Qin Shaoyang forced a smile. Tan Xiu just hung up the phone after he said that to me. That means he doesn't want to talk anymore. Even if you call him, I'm afraid he won't tell you anything. Qin Xiefeng sighed and helplessly said, forget it. Since it's Tan Xiu who sent the news, I'm afraid the Fan family is really going to encounter a big problem. We'll completely stop the cooperation with the Fan family and withdraw our investment as fast as possible. We'll accept it even if we suffer a huge loss. Isn't this decision too hasty, Dad? Qin Shaoji quickly said. You made such a big decision just because of Tan Xiu's call. If nothing happens to the Fan family later, I'm afraid we'll thoroughly offend the Fan family. There are some things you don't understand, Shaoji, said Qin Xiefeng. The Tang family in the imperial capital is one of the top aristocratic families in the entire Huaxia country. Whether it is the wealth, power, or connections, the Tang family can crush the Fan family. A long time ago, I wanted to have a relationship with such a real aristocratic family. It's best if I can establish a deep friendship with them. I didn't manage to do it, but Shaoyang did. I only learned about his friendship with Tan Xiu later. Therefore, I sent some people to secretly investigate some information about Tan Xiu. The result of the investigation was shocking. Tan Xiu has become the most outstanding descendant of the Tang family. Especially since he cured his father, Tang Yunda, his status in the Tang family has risen. Even the old patriarch of the Tang family is very concerned about Tan Xiu. This time, it's a big gamble for our Qin family. And the outcome of this gamble is not a clean loss. The loss of about 5 billion yuan is still something our Qin family can afford. But it's definitely worth it to deepen the friendship between Shaoyang and Tang Xiu. That's right. The wise and farsighted look in Qin Xiefeng's eyes turned more intense. After he stopped talking, he took a few puffs of his cigar and sighed. Regardless of whether the news about Tan Xiu is true or not, Shaoyang trusts him unreservedly. Our Qin family trusts him unreservedly, so we can get his recognition and friendship. But if it's true, the Fan family will be in big trouble. It's definitely the wisest choice for our Qin family to cut ties with them in time. What you said is very reasonable, Dad, asked Qin Shaoji curiously. But I still have a question. Can Tan Xiu really inherit the position of the old patriarch of the Tang family and become the future patriarch of the Tang family? Your vision is still too small. Qin Xiefeng shook his head. I'm afraid that Tan Xiu doesn't care about the patriarch position of the Tang family. Do you know how much wealth Tan Xiu has now? How much? Qin Shaoji was confused. His personal wealth is more than 10 billion yuan. Shaoji, you must be well informed if you want to go further in the future. Qin Xiefeng sneered. According to my previous investigation, Tan Xiu's personal wealth is probably tens of billions. The magnificent Tang Corporation has been making a lot of moves in the recent half a year. Let alone the profits from their extremely popular products, just the income from the development of Star City's new metro and the sale of the properties they bought internally are enough to earn them a lot of money. How is that possible? Qin Shaoji was shocked. Why is it impossible? Qin Xiefeng sighed. The magnificent Tang Corporation's products are simply in short supply in the market. As long as they can produce them, the market will never be able to digest them no matter how many products they produce. Such a terrifying profit is definitely something that all businessmen in the business world are extremely envious of. As for the development of Star City's new metro, do you know who are the partners of the magnificent Tang Corporation? I don't know. Qin Shaoji shook his head. Big brother, let me explain it to you. Qin Shaoyang said. There are a total of 7 forces involved in the development of Star City's new metro. They are the Bai family in the imperial capital, the Chu family in the imperial capital, the Long family in Star City, the Ouyang family in Jingmen Island, the Miao family in Haiqing province, and the mysterious Xiaomingzhen. Each of these 7 forces possessed wealth in the tens of billions as a foundation. There's one more thing that I'm afraid even our dad doesn't know. What is it? Qin Shaoji was confused. When these 7 forces joined hands to develop Star City's new metro, Tan Xiu was not yet a member of the Tang family in the imperial capital. He didn't even know that he was a member of the Tang family at that time. Being able to join hands with the other 6 forces was all achieved by his own ability. Furthermore, he's also the leader among them. Hiss, Qin Shaoji was frightened by his younger brother's words and couldn't help but gasp. He had heard of a lot of monstrous geniuses, but he had never heard of such a monstrous genius. This was too strong. Qin Xiefeng was also a bit shocked. After a long while, he sighed and said, Tan Xiu's power is far more than this. Rumor has it that the Amur tiger was killed by Tan Xiu. Rumor has it that the Tang family was able to defeat the Yao family because of Tan Xiu. You know Zhang Yueming, right? He's my old friend of many years. He once told me that the world will definitely belong to Tang Xiu in the future when we were drinking together. Qin Shaoji fell into silence. He didn't believe his younger brother, Qin Shaoyang, but he absolutely believed his father. Since they said so, then it was very likely that Tan Xiu was very powerful and terrifying. Qin Xiefeng extinguished his cigar and waved his hand. All right, Shaoyang. Help me immediately stop the business cooperation with the Fan family. Also, go find Tan Xiu and see if you can get some useful information from him. Shaoji, you don't know how to do business, so go back first. Chapter 1009. It was a bustling block with high-rise buildings, rows upon rows of shops, and a dazzling array of goods. Yet, a faint smell of blood lingered in the air in such a place. As Tan Xiu led Tang 28's group of 5 to shuttle through the block, the gunshots became clearer and clearer. Finally, when they appeared at an intersection, they saw the tragic scene in front of them. Dozens of cars had crashed into each other and countless casualties could be seen everywhere. It's a big mess. Tan Xiu looked at the dozens of police cars blocked in the periphery, while dozens of armed policemen were engaged in a fierce gunfight with more than a dozen bandits. A bit of helplessness could be seen on his handsome face. At this moment, he once again sensed the presence of corpse energy, and it was from those bandits. You guys, go deal with those people. Tan Xiu calmly ordered. Tang 28 nodded in response. He had just taken a few steps when he suddenly stopped and looked at his 4 companions who were standing still. Immediately after, he looked at Tan Xiu and then at the 4 children, saying, I chose you. You must obey sect master's orders if you want to follow him. But we haven't killed anyone, said one of the teenagers hesitantly. Tang 28 looked at Tan Xiu with a hesitant look on his face. In fact, he had never killed anyone. Although he had lived a hard life with no fixed abode and no one to rely on, fighting with other children and being bullied by others were common occurrences, he still had an inexplicable fear toward killing people. Tan Xiu looked at the 5 children and sneered, I told you to deal with them, not to kill them. Such an occasion isn't suitable for killing people. You just need to cripple them and knock them out. However, I just found out one thing today. Your hands haven't been stained with blood and you haven't killed any enemies yet. That's a very serious problem. It seems that there's still a gap between the spiritual transformation you underwent in the illusion and reality. Tang 28's spirit was shaken and he quickly said, We'll go right away, sect master. His voice faded away. He then led his 4 companions and ran toward the distance. Even if one stared at them with wide eyes, they would only be able to see a few afterimages given their speed. If one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't even notice that someone was passing by. Tan Xiu's gaze swept past the corpses at the crossroads, and finally landed on a few wounded people who were curled up on the ground, holding their stomachs or wailing in pain. Save them. Tan Xiu no longer hesitated. Using the colliding cars as cover, he ran toward the intersection and successfully arrived at a car that was almost scrapped. Help me, my leg is stuck. The driver's door of a Buick sedan was open. A fat middle-aged man with blood all over his face in pain saw Tan Xiu squatting outside the door and immediately begged. Tan Xiu's spiritual sense covered a radius of hundreds of meters. Looking at the middle-aged fat man in pain, he quickly got up and got into the car. With the strength of his hands, he easily pushed the thing that was stuck to the middle-aged fat man. Pu. Tan Xiu quickly took out a silver needle and pierced it into 2 acupoints on the middle-aged fat man's body. Then, he carefully pulled him out of the car and said in a low voice, Don't worry. I'm a Chinese medicine practitioner. Your injuries are very serious. The bones in your legs are broken, but I've sealed the wound. You won't bleed too much, so it won't be a problem for you to keep your life. What you need to do now is to sit here and not move. Wait for the police to subdue those criminals, and then the doctors will rush here to give you the next treatment. The fat middle-aged man grabbed Tan Xiu and hurriedly said, Doctor, can my legs be healed later? Aye. Tan Xiu patted his shoulder and nodded, Don't worry. I'll go to the hospital to find you after everything here is over. I'm sure your legs will be healed by then. But I still need to treat the others, so pay attention to your safety. The fat middle-aged man was horrified, Doctor, you're going to save people now. Heavens! Are you crazy? Those criminals are fighting with the police now. If you go now, bullets don't have eyes. What if you get shot? Tan Xiu smiled indifferently and said, Don't worry. Since I can save other people's lives from the King of Hell, I can also save my own life. Upon seeing that Tan Xiu had made up his mind and was about to leave, the fat middle-aged man immediately asked, Doctor, what's your name? You saved me, so I must know your name. Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu replied without turning his head. He used another car as a cover and ran toward the injured man who was lying on the ground and twitching 7 or 8 meters away. Bullets brushed past his shoulder. The police nearby shouted at him, but he ignored them. Several bullets were aimed at him, but he dodged them without leaving any trace. After a while, Tan Xiu grabbed the seriously injured man and quickly carried him. He then rushed toward a smashed off-road vehicle a few meters away. In just a few seconds, the dozens of police officers were sweating profusely, while some people who were hiding in the surrounding places peeked with their hearts hanging in their throats. At the northeast corner of the intersection, the 30-story building was the Big Golden Eagle store. From the first floor to the 32nd floor, there were all kinds of dazzling goods, and the prices were also very high. The 6th floor was the clothing area, mainly selling all kinds of branded women's clothing from all over the world. At one of the windows, Tian Xiaoming was sweating profusely. She nervously held the camera and pointed the camera at the fierce gunfight downstairs. "I'm very sad and angry. I'm sad to see those innocent people fall in a pool of blood. I can only watch their life force quickly pass away, but I can't do anything to help them. I'm even angrier. I'm angry at those damn criminals. They are so cruel and merciless. They killed people and robbed their goods in public in this imperial capital street. All my dear fans, Xiaoming never dreamed that I would come to the imperial capital to participate in an entertainment program. I never thought that I would encounter such a terrible incident and see such a hell on earth. My dear fans, all my friends who are watching the tragic scene through this live broadcast platform, please join me in praying for those innocent victims. Pray that they can survive." At this moment, there were hundreds of thousands of people watching Tian Xiaoming's live broadcast from all over the country. And as time went by, a large number of viewers swarmed in, and the number of fans was increasing at a very fast speed. In just 5 or 6 minutes, the number of fans who entered the live broadcast room had exceeded 300,000 people. No one spoke. No one tipped. Pairs of shocked and sympathetic eyes stared at the tragic scene on the screen. Many timid girls and kind-hearted boys and girls even covered their mouths with tears flowing out of their eyes. Suddenly, Tian Xiaoming's body slightly trembled. A look of disbelief suddenly appeared in her big bright eyes. Although her hand holding the mobile phone was trembling, she still cried out involuntarily, "How could it be him? It's dangerous. How did he break in? Who?" Hundreds of thousands of people heard Tian Xiaoming's voice, and their minds were filled with strong curiosity. At this moment, among the hundreds of thousands of people who were staring at the tragic scene, some people recognized the figure in the screen. Even if it was a bit blurry, they could still recognize the person's face. Tan Xiu. No one knew who typed these 2 words in the comments section. Suddenly, hundreds of thousands of people were attracted by the figure who sprinted to the side of a smashed off-road vehicle. After their identification, they quickly recognized that the person was Tan Xiu, the famous small business owner Tan Xiu, the good doctor with a heart of gold. Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu. In the comments section, countless viewers began to type these 2 words. As a result, the 2 names in the comments section were crazily scrolling. Tian Xiaoming stared at Tan Xiu's figure, feeling that her breathing had become rapid. Her eyes were full of worry and eagerness. Tears flowed out of her eyes and slid down her delicate and lovely face. He's saving people. Tian Xiaoming's tone was a bit sobbing. Watching Tan Xiu save the wounded who was wailing in pain and curling up his body, and sprint to the side of the off-road vehicle to avoid the bullets, she had mixed feelings in her heart. Suddenly, she seemed to have realized something. Although she did not appear on the screen, her voice reached the ears of hundreds of thousands of viewers. "Dear friends, you're not mistaken. He is indeed Tan Xiu, my most respected big brother, and also the most famous little miracle doctor of our country, Tan Xiu. It's him who is rushing into the hail of bullets, it's him who is saving the lives of the wounded. I beg God to bless him to be safe, bless him to save those poor wounded people. Bless him. Bless him." In the comments section, the 2 words that replaced Tan Xiu's name deeply remembered the worry for Tan Xiu and the blessing for him. In their hearts, the name, Tan Xiu, had been deeply engraved in their minds, and they had already deeply remembered his face. What was courage? What was a hero? Although they knew it in the past, it was very difficult to see the existence of a hero in front of them. But now they saw it. They saw the figure who disregarded his life, braved the threat of the hail of bullets, and braved the situation where he could be shot at any time, and still rushed in to save people. Time passed. More and more people entered Tian Xiaomeng's live broadcast room. In just 10 minutes, there were already more than 1.5 million people. However, everyone who came in, after recovering from the shock, saw that face clearly, and saw the figure who was constantly saving people. The eighth one. He had already treated 8 injured people and brought them to a temporary safe place. My idol, the person I respect the most, I hope you can be safe. Tears flowed down Tian Xiaomeng's face, and her voice reached the ears of more than 1.5 million people. Chapter 10:10. The incident in the imperial capital had attracted the attention of the people all over the country. Because of Tian Xiaomeng's live broadcast, all the big shots were aware that it was impossible to suppress this news no matter how hard they tried. Therefore, the major media began to report it after being authorized by some high-level officials. Creating public opinion. It was to guide the wind to a healthy direction. Despite the violent incident, the media deliberately led the people of the country to direct their anger to the murderers. However, Tan Xiu didn't want to pay attention to this matter. The only thing he was worried about now was that he must not become famous again after Tian Xiaomeng's live broadcast. Otherwise, it would bring him a lot of trouble. At the Tang family's ancestral residence, Tang Guosheng sat quietly in the courtyard, watching the content on the projector. A faint satisfied smile appeared on his ruddy face. Next to him, his wife, Qin Changyue, looked very nervous and worried. Next to them were Tang Guosheng and Tang Guoshou, the 2 elders of the Tang family. Behind them were Tang Yunpeng, Tang Yunda, Tang Min, Tang Dong, Tang Yan, and Tang Yunqing. Even the younger generation, Tang Ning, Tang Ying, Tang Wei, Tang Tang, Tang Ji, and the others, were staring at the projector with a nervous and admiring expression. Their eyes were focused on the figure. It was none other than Tan Xiu. Finally, when the live broadcast stopped, Tang Guosheng burst into laughter and said with satisfaction, "He's worthy to be my good grandson." He bravely stepped forward at the critical moment and relied on his own strength to treat the wounded. I dare say that my grandson's name will be known by all the people in the country before tomorrow. Our Tang family finally has a young hero. Your praise is a bit too much, Dad. Tang Yunda laughed. That stinky brat is a hero. Tang Guosheng shook his head and said, Yunda, Xiu is a hero. He's our family's hero and also the hero in the eyes of the people in the country. Even old geezers like us don't dare to rush into a hail of bullets to save others' lives at this time. This child is our Tang family's lucky star and our hope. Don't say it, second uncle, said Tang Yunda helplessly. On the contrary, I feel that what he did was inappropriate. We all know Xiu's strength. At such a critical juncture, he didn't deal with those murderers, but instead went to save people. If it were me, I definitely wouldn't do that. Tang Guosheng squinted his eyes. His eyes flickered with wisdom as he shook his head and said, Yunda, Xiu is courageous and resourceful. He definitely has his reasons for not taking the initiative to exterminate those villains. Since he has already come to the imperial capital, I believe he will be back very soon. When he comes, we will know once we ask him. Ha, Grandpa missed me. As a clear laughter came from outside the courtyard, Tan Xiu walked in with Tang 28's group of 5 children. At this moment, everyone in the courtyard turned to look at him and Tang 28's group of 5. Tang Guosheng stood up from the rattan chair with a satisfied look on his aged face. He laughed heartily and said, Xiu, you've done another great thing. There aren't many people this grandpa admires in my life, but you're definitely one of them. You're overpraising me, Grandpa, said Tang Xiu with a smile. I learned a few days ago that your 80th birthday is coming, so I specially came back to congratulate you, wishing you good health and a long life. I don't even dare to think about living a long life, but I'll be satisfied if I can live to 100 years old. Tang Guosheng waved his hand and smilingly said, anyways, our whole family is here today, Xiao. Tell us, why did you choose to treat those seriously injured people instead of dealing with those murderers? Also, how did those murderers get dealt with inexplicably and inexplicably? Did you order someone to do it? Tan Xiao pointed to Tang 28's group of 5 children and smilingly said, he's Tang 28, Grandpa, and the other 4 are his companions. They are the ones who dealt with those murderers. I may have some strength, but I don't want others to see me take action, so saving people is the best choice. Tang Guosheng immediately understood. But he looked at Tang 28's group of 5 children with a surprised expression and asked, Xiao, they're all orphans I adopted and cultivated into outstanding cultivators, said Tan Xiao. They're the best among tens of thousands of children, so they're qualified to be with me. Tang Guosheng was shocked inwardly. He knew that his grandson, Tan Xiao, had secretly adopted street children, but he didn't expect that he would impart cultivation arts to these children and turn them into cultivators. However, what shocked him the most was that these murderers were not weak. At the very least, their speed and strength, as well as the spear techniques they mastered, were absolutely top-notch. These children had only cultivated for a year at most, so how could they have such powerful strength? Tan Xiao didn't explain the cultivation level of Tang 28's group of 5. After greeting the other elders in the courtyard, he smilingly said, I'm afraid the Fan family is going to run out of luck this time. The leader of the murderers is the second son of the Fan family's patriarch. I'm afraid the patriarch won't be able to handle such a big commotion this time. Tang Guosheng understood politics and was naturally aware of his grandson's meaning. He nodded and sighed, that's right. The Fan family is in trouble this time. No one can save them at this time. That little girl who did the live broadcast has ruthlessly sprinkled salt on the Fan family's wounds. That little girl Xiaomeng probably doesn't know how much influence her live broadcast has caused. Tan Xiao chuckled. The Fan family is really unlucky to have given birth to such a prodigal child who invites disaster. You know that little girl? Asked Tang Guosheng, surprised. I know her, Grandpa. We have a deep relationship. Tan Xiao chuckled. I wouldn't have become famous if it wasn't for her. She was the one who publicized me in Star City Chinese Medical Hospital last time through a live broadcast. Afterward, she was the one who reported about me in an orphanage in Star City and made me face the people directly. But I didn't expect that it would be such a coincidence that she actually came to the imperial capital and happened to be at the place where the accident happened. Tang Guosheng nodded and smilingly said, Xiao, I'm afraid this matter will be very big, so I need you to do something for me. What is it? Asked Tan Xiao, confused. Tang Min walked out of the crowd and forced a smile, Xiao, Auntie needs your help this time. The Chu family and the Fan family are somewhat pretentious and have some cooperation in some business fields. Once the Fan family collapses, the Chu family will definitely be implicated. Although I'm a daughter of the Tang family, I'm married to the Chu family and am their daughter-in-law. Therefore, I need you to come forward and help the Chu family in this matter. What can I do? Tan Xiao stared blankly for a moment and forced a smile. A shrewd glint flashed in Tang Min's eyes as she said, once the Fan family collapses, their business will definitely be seized. At that time, if you can come forward and meet some people, the seized business will fall into the hands of the Chu family. Of course, it will fall into the hands of the Chu family on the surface, but half of the benefits will be obtained by the Tang family. It seems that you are more than what I thought. Tan Xiao raised his thumbs up and praised. I originally thought that I only need to draw a clear line with the Fan family, but I didn't expect that there are still huge benefits involved. Just leave this matter to me and cousin Chu Yi. I think we can solve it. Auntie really didn't dote on you in vain, said Tang Min with a satisfied smile. Tang Xiao grinned and said, why can't I get some benefits? I heard that the Fan family has a bad reputation in the imperial capital. Since they deserve this calamity, then let them decline. At this moment, All the members of the Tang family in the courtyard were clearly aware of one thing. Although the Tang family's current patriarch was Tang Guosheng and his words carried enormous weight in the Tang family, the one who was second only to him was not the other elders, but Tan Xiu. His actions, his abilities, would directly affect the future fate of all the Tang clan members. The next day, Tan Xiu received accurate news that the patriarch of the Fan family had been arrested by the state for condoning his son to create such a huge bloody incident. All the members of the Fan family were also investigated by the state, and all the businesses of the Fan family were ordered to stop business for rectification. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. When the wall collapses, everyone pushes it. In just one day, the Fan family had been reduced from a second-rate family in the imperial capital to an existence that everyone would turn pale at the mention of and avoid. Almost all the families and people who had a friendship with the Fan family began to disassociate themselves from the Fan family. As for the families who had some grudges with the Fan family, they added fuel to the fire in an attempt to completely consign the Fan family to eternal damnation. However, this news was meaningless to Tan Xiu. He didn't care about the life and death of the Fan family, nor did he care about what kind of miserable ending the Fan family would have. What he needed to figure out now was why the Fan family's villains had corpse chi. Corpse chi could affect people's minds and could turn a good person into a devil who would kill without blinking an eye. The second brother of the Fan family was born in a big family, so he naturally knew what would happen to him if he created such a huge bloody incident in the imperial capital. Yet, he still did it, indicating that his consciousness had been affected by the corpse chi. At the Northview restaurant, Tan Xiu met the Special Abilities Bureau's big boss, Duan Mulin. Upon seeing his frown, Tan Xiu secretly sighed inwardly. He walked to the opposite side and sat down, asking with a smile, "Senior Duanmu, what's making you so vexed? Is it because of yesterday's incident?" Duanmu Lin looked up and saw Tan Xiu. He immediately forced a smile and said, "What else could it be other than that? My hair is about to turn white from worry." Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, "It can't be, can it? You're the Special Abilities Bureau's big boss, so you don't need to worry about this kind of thing, do you? Someone will naturally clean up the trouble caused by the Fan family." With a solemn expression, Duan Mulin shook his head and sighed. It would be easy to solve if it was just a case involving ordinary people. But things have changed. Chapter 10-11. Tan Xiu's expression shifted and he asked, "What happened? You're a member of our department, so it's not a big deal to tell you." Duan Mulin forced a smile and said, "But this matter must be kept a secret. 2 core members of the Fan family showed inhuman power and killed more than a dozen intelligence operatives who were monitoring them before escaping. We've investigated the scene of the massacre and found that the killing method was very strange." Tan Xiu's expression slightly changed and he said, "You should have photos of the murder scene here, right? Let me have a look." Duan Mulin pushed the folder on the table in front of him to Tan Xiu and let Tan Xiu grab it. Then, he said, "Shouldn't you give me an explanation about what happened yesterday?" While opening the folder and looking at the photos, Tan Xiu said, "I just arrived at the imperial capital yesterday and happened to encounter that incident, so I acted. However, I wasn't the one who crippled those murderers, but several of my men. You also know that it would be very troublesome if my identity was exposed in that situation." Duan Mulin finally let out a smile and nodded. "I knew it was your men who did it, else it would be impossible for them to cripple those murderers so silently. Those murderers of the Fan family have been secretly detained in the prison of our Special Abilities Bureau's HQ. Unfortunately, there's no way to interrogate them for any useful information." "Are they crazy?" asked Tan Xiu. "How do you know?" Duan Mulin stared blankly and asked with a puzzled expression. "Did your men make them crazy?" Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "It's not my men. They had already lost their minds before they committed the murder. Although I happened to encounter them yesterday, I sensed corpse energy from them. It shows that they were affected by corpse energy and committed such a bloody act. I'm even more certain about their situation after seeing these photos. The photos were several tens of meters long. It was a photo of the murder scene where two members of the Fan family killed the intelligence operatives last night. The deceased in the photo had wounds left by sharp claws and teeth. If they were not bitten by wild beasts, then it could only be done by humans under the influence of corpse energy. These people were also known as half-corpses. Duan Mulin's eyes flickered. He looked deeply at Tan Xiao and asked, "Do you have any way of finding the two members of the Fan family who escaped?" Tan Xiao said, "I need the blood of the Fan family, and preferably fresh blood that has just been taken from their clan." "Come with me to the Special Abilities Bureau's prison," asked Duan Mulin. Tan Xiao nodded with a smile and said, "Let's eat first and then we'll go there. I'm a member of the Special Abilities Bureau, but I haven't been to the headquarters in the imperial capital yet. It's really inexcusable. By the way, I need to borrow something from you." Duan Mulin asked, "What do you want to borrow?" "Subaquatic corvette," said Tan Xiao. "Why do you want to borrow the subaquatic corvette?" asked Duan Mulin with furrowed brows. "I had a conflict with some foreign forces and was plotted against by them," said Tan Xiao helplessly. "That's why my people and those foreign cultivation forces fought in the Pacific Ocean. The subaquatic corvette can help me dispatch people and also be used to shoot the enemy." Duan Mulin furrowed his brows and asked, "You mean those foreign cultivation forces? Who are they?" "There are many of them." Tan Xiao forced a smile and said, "They are the top 3 forces in the world. I'm afraid we'll have a fight with them, as well as some other forces. In short, the enemy this time is very strong. Also, the main enemy is the Celestial Wizard Clan." "Senior Duanmu, you should have heard of the Celestial Wizard Clan, right?" Duan Mulin's body shook and he solemnly nodded. "Not only have I heard of them, but I've also fought with them. Unfortunately, the final result of that dispute was that our Special Abilities Bureau lost some people, and it could be said that we suffered a setback." Tan Xiao, the Celestial Wizard Clan possesses magical witchcraft arts. Their means are mysterious and extremely powerful. "Are you their match?" "I'm sure I can wipe out the entire Celestial Wizard Clan if it's only them," said Tan Xiao. "But there are more cultivation forces involved now, especially the top 3 forces in the world. It's really hard to say who will win or lose. This is also the reason why I want to borrow the subaquatic corvette from you." Duan Mulin pondered for a moment and asked, "Can you guarantee the safety of the subaquatic corvette?" "You must know that the subaquatic corvette is a technology of an advanced civilization. Once it falls into the hands of other countries, it will pose a huge threat to our country in the future." "I can guarantee that." Tan Xiao nodded. "If so, then I'll ask my superiors for a transfer." Duan Mulin nodded. "But I can't guarantee that they will agree to it." "Then tell your superiors that I'll make a deal with the military if they agree to lend me the subaquatic corvette," said Tan Xiao. "It's a brand new technological product that will play a huge role once it's applied to the military." Duan Mulin's spirit shook and he hurriedly asked, "Can you tell me the specifics about the product?" "I can only say that it's a flight product," Tan Xiao mysteriously smiled. "A flight product?" A solemn look appeared on Duan Mulin's face. He got up and said, "I'll tell the Bureau to prepare a meal, so let's not waste time here. Whether it's tracking the traces of the Fan family or borrowing the subaquatic corvette, we must hurry up." Upon hearing this, Tan Xiao could only follow Duan Mulin and leave. However, just as they left the restaurant's entrance, Aquababe hurriedly came down from an RV not far away and ran to Duan Mulin and Tan Xiao. She nodded to Tan Xiao and hurriedly said, "There's a situation, Chief." "What is it?" asked Duan Mulin. Aquababe glanced at Tan Xiao and wanted to say something but hesitated. "Tan Xiao is a member of our Special Abilities Bureau, so there's no need to hide it from him," said Duan Mulin. "Tell me, what's the situation?" "I just received news that 2 escaped members of the Fan family have appeared in Liangang City," said Aquababe immediately after hearing it. The driver of the taxi they took has been killed and his body was found on the desolate seaside. The taxi was also there. However, through our investigation, we discovered that there is another group of people chasing after them. Duan Mulin's expression changed and he hurriedly said, "How is that possible? The state has given us the task of hunting them, so it's impossible for other forces to get involved. Could it be that the other group of people are enemies of the Fan family? According to the surveillance footage, there are 3 people in total. One is an old man, and the other 2 are a middle-aged man and a woman." Aquababe shook her head and said, "I've asked the Bureau's intelligence personnel to check the database, but they couldn't find any information about them. Hence, the intelligence personnel inferred that they are not Chinese." "Can you find their traces?" asked Duan Mulin. "For the time being, the 2 Fan family members are nowhere to be found, but the 3 mysterious people are still within our monitoring range," said Aquababe. "We may be able to see them if we rush to Liang'ang City as soon as possible. What do you think?" Duan Mulin looked at Tan Xiao and asked. "Let's send someone to bring a member of the Fan family to Liang'ang City," said Tan Xiao. "We'll rush there now. It's naturally good if we can find those people directly. But if we can't, we still need the blood of the Fan family. Let's do that." Duan Mulin nodded. "Aquababe, go find a member of the Fan family and bring him to Liang'ang City." Liang'ang City. The southernmost city of the 3 northern provinces had developed very fast due to its coastal location and had become the most prosperous metropolis in the 3 northern provinces. North Village Fishery. Surrounded by mountains, the scenery was picturesque. The lakeshore was connected to each other, sparkling under the sunlight. Fluent English was heard from a fishing boat. "Master, according to the tracking disc, the direction the 2 half-ghouls fled should be Lashanku. Shall we go after them now?" A middle-aged man with disheveled blonde hair and black sunglasses looked at the old man sitting in front of him and asked. The old man slowly shook his head and said, "They hid the corpse bottles here, which means they'll sneak back. If they want to become powerful half-ghouls, they need the corpse energy in the corpse bottles. They'll definitely come back here within 3 days." The blonde middle-aged man frowned and said, "But what if they have more corpse bottles? As for the corpse bottle they hid here, could it be that they purposely left it to confuse us?" A cold light flashed in the old man's eyes as he nodded and said, "What you said makes sense. However, we don't know much about China's cities, and we're much worse compared to those 2 half-ghouls. If we follow the tracking disc's guidance, they'll easily get rid of us and follow behind them. Don't worry. Since their aura has been locked by the disc, we'll be able to determine their position as long as they're no more than 300 kilometers away from us within 3 days. But we'll lose their tracks if they flee more than 300 kilometers away," said the blonde middle-aged man. "It won't be easy to find them at that time." The old man sneered, "Since we've determined their direction of escape, we'll immediately track them in the direction of Lashanku once the tracking disc stops. With our speed, it'll be easy for us to stay within 300 kilometers from them." Whoosh! A figure flickered lightning fast and instantly rushed into the fishing boat from the shore. It was a middle-aged woman in black leather with a murderous look on her face. She said in a deep voice, "Some people are monitoring us. They should be the Huaxia officials." The old man's expression shifted and he immediately sneered, "We found those 2 half-ghouls. If the Huaxia officials want to compete with us for the spoils of war, we don't need to be polite with them. Those 2 half-ghouls can be sold for a very high price on the black market. We bounty hunters can't give up such a good opportunity." You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.